Well, first of all, I want to say thanks a lot for coming on. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. The biggest thing I remember about you, and you probably had the same memories, but every time I went to the competition, you were at the competition. I mean, I'm sure you went to more than I ever did, but it was always cool seeing the kind of like the same faces. And, it's one of the, it was a reunion of sorts going down to the comp. And and you were always there. And who were some other guys that were always there, like Matt Busan and Ron Myers and Klukas was always down there, Paul Ford. Who do you remember from going to the comps?
Spuds Arcerio.
Yeah, right. Yep, for sure.
Colonel Hannikin, Dan Hannikin, Johnny Knight.
Yeah, Knight. That's right. For
Timmy,
sure.
of course, lots of guys. I mean, and that was one of the things that I want to bring up is who I brought often with me. When I went to the comp. But yeah, I think there's very few that I missed.
Yeah, you were always there. It was, and I think it kind of obviously went away during the GWAT, but then it's kind of coming back now. I don't know to what extent. I don't know how it mirrors what we used to do. But I remember those early ones that was a blast. I had a good time.
Yeah. The first time we met was Panama. You were just a young
guy,
probably your first assignment.
Right.
But that's your story. That was the first time we met.
Yeah, you brought that up when we talked about it, and I'm not against talking about it. I don't think many people know about it. What were you guys doing down there? It was you and Coulthard.
It was Coulthard, I think Mike Tungate, retread, and then Dave Shorter, Sprout, a young guy. Okay. I think that was the crew, or it was Bill Thomas. I went 7 different times down there.
Yeah. So, were you guys down there for JOTC, or were you down there for something else?
JOTC, and then I always work going down to the local TACP to get joint coordination training, things like that, see the difference in locations.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was when we were still at Albrook. I think you guys came over to Albrook. And
you guys were at Albrook, and we met you at the barracks there.
That's right.
Yeah. I think you were just a 2-striper, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys are in and out of DM, right?
Right. Yeah, we were. The most of us were down there, or were up in Tucson, and then it was like Lunk and Chief Denny.
Harris.
He wasn't chief at the time. Was Harris down there? Or was it? I thought he was up at. I thought we had all moved up, and it was just like 3 of them. There's like a radio maintenance guy, Lunk, and Denny that were still down there, and then everybody else was kind of up in Arizona.
God, Eric. Was it Eric Harris? Yeah, the legend.
Yeah, Eric Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
He picked me up from the airport when I first got into Tucson, when I just out of tech school, jump school, all that stuff. My first assignment, he picked me up, and
Mark and I, we bumped into each other many, many times over and over, and I knew he was down there, and I had his number, and that's who I called after I met you to say, because I had just put on staff then, and it was my first dealing with what do I do? But
that's right. So you knew Lunk from before.
Oh, yeah.
And then that incident happened, and then you called. You're like, "Hey, man, this is what's going on."
He was the boss, and I, had to kind of say, "Hey, I think you should come over."
So, I mean, we've already kind of alluded to it. What happened was, and I don't really remember a whole lot of it because I was obviously, had a few drinks at that point. But I had gotten into a confrontation with another airman, and to my recollection, I don't remember it being very contentious. I thought we were just kind of messing around. This guy did not feel that way. He was very scared, and he picked up like a clothing iron. Yeah, the one I still have the scar, I think, right there in the eye, right in the forehead. He just nailed me, and I don't remember much after that. I remember being in the hospital downtown in Panama City. Where do you remember where they took me? It was like
no, I did him out after Lunk got there, and me and
did you?
boys, because my perspective of it was, maybe you had a few drinks in you, and you're pretty hyped up. The guy was ironing clothes, and you were like, "Dude, come on, let's just fucking go, let's get out of here." And he's like, "This way," and he was kind of. I wouldn't say dragging his ass, but he was going at his pace, and you were 100 miles an hour faster. And what I remember is you came up behind him and kind of gave him a bear hug, and then he just went boop with the iron and the point at your forehead, and then you probably don't remember much past that, but
not really, no.
Yeah, but it was just messing around. It wasn't anything malicious, other than the reaction to, this is what I told you I'm going to do, and now you got a scar to remember it by.
So wait a minute. So I'm probably misremembering this then because so was it just the one hit that when he hit me
Oh yeah,
or
that well, I only remember one. I only remember
oh you
one.
just saw the one? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like I said I
because
was not really there.
and I
So
I would I would not be surprised if it was any more, because he came up and the point of the iron. I mean, you could see like it was an obvious spear, like indentation in your head and blood just coming. And like I said, there I am. I just put on staff. It was my first trip down there. Never really been in a first sergeant, what do I do now type.
yeah, yeah. You're like I'm an NCO now. I got to
Yeah,
take charge.
yeah. And here I got these three young guys that are ready to rip up downtown, because that's what we were heading for, you know, the
Right, right.
nightlife. And yeah, it was interesting. But
So stupid.
God, yeah, I think you could do a podcast series of back in the day. I don't know if you ever came across the Romet books, the
Oh yeah.
recidivist. You could do a complete podcast of just stories like that. And,
I know. I
and
wish I could get my hands on some of those and just kind of just do like a reading, like or something just to kind
well,
of reminisce.
that's what they were for. You can't do that though.
Right. That's exactly right. It's classified.
Anyways, yeah,
So okay, so that was the story. If anybody was wondering, it was a dumb thing. I was an airman. Like you said, I was just in the military, barely even anything. Um, so let's back up. Let's back up on you. Let's focus on you. Um, Tell me about when you were just getting into the military, or what prompted you to get into the military, and then tell me what went on from there.
well, I had family members that were military. My mom's dad, Grandpa Zook, he was a Navy guy that I guess he was on a specialized crew that, as ships would come out of the factory, he would take them and test everything out, and then put the marine vessel on it.
Okay.
He'd give it his insignia, and it'd go to the Navy. I had an uncle, my mom's brother, Jerry. I was also a Navy guy. He was a Vietnam vet. He was the one I'm more closely related to, because, we both talked about the shitty side of the military,
Sure.
the wars and shit.
Right.
And then I had a few other relatives that Air Force cop, my Uncle Johnny, and then my Uncle Richie was the Coast Guard guy, which I wish I would have
Okay.
talked to him more about that, the DoD Yacht Club. But and then my dad was in the Army for a few short years, but nobody really talked about it much. And then honestly, I was on a bad path. I was drinking fifths of Jack Daniels my junior year in high school, and I was pretty much destroying myself. And then literally
Yeah.
hung over one morning. I think I skipped school, and I found myself in the recruiter's office in Enfield, Connecticut. I'm from Stafford Springs, Connecticut,
Okay.
small little town on the northern border of Massachusetts. And I went in there, and I think the first door on the left was the Army, and I went in, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I'm looking to join the service. I'm not sure what's going on. This is my memory. And the recruiter that covered our area wasn't there, but the guy that was walked over to his desk, pulled open the drawer, and it was just like a trash can. I mean, there was so much shit and clutter in there, and I'm like, why don't, when you get my stuff and then the guy gets here, you come talk to me. I think I had a sense I wanted to get organized and disciplined, but not Army style. Um,
Right. Right.
and then the only other guy that was in there was the Marine Corps. Of course, you know, their dress uniform and everything sharp. And it was like, slow down. No, not you. Um, the Navy, because of we had a Marine base just in New Jersey, Rhode Island, Groton, nuke stuff and all that. They weren't really represented there, but they made appointments and came to the house. The dude showed up like 30, 45 minutes late. He was hungover, immediately wanted coffee and was smoking cigarettes. He goes, some of my buds just came into port. We partied hard last night. And this is in my mom's house. And my mom's like, she's not reacting, but I could tell she was not happy.
Sure. Yeah.
And then fast forward, the end result, we had a, longtime family friend that was another grandfather to me, and Chet Huntley. We were over his house one day, and he knew I was kind of undecided on where to go, and he goes, "Here, let me try something. Let me have you try something on." And he walked out with this Chief Master Sergeant blues jacket, chest full of ribbons, every stripe from elbow to shoulder. And he goes,
Right.
"Try this on." I put it on, and I went, "I like blue. This is pretty cool." And I joined the Air Force. And he
Nice.
passed away years later, but he always talked about that moment. And his family gave me his jacket in memory of that. And
Oh, that's awesome.
the short version on him was I found out later, his career started in the Navy. I think he was a cook of some sort. And then he had a honorable discharge out of the Navy and joined the U.S. Army. And then he had an honorable discharge out of the U.S. Army and started the Army Air Corps.
Okay.
And then he had an honorable discharge out of the Army Air Corps and then retired out of the U.S. Air Force. So on his I Love Me wall, which was his room of just pictures of all the actors for USO shows and stuff like that, because just knowing the timeline of those branches, he had it all on his wall there. His honorable
Wow.
services, yeah. So he was quite a mentor. So fortunately,
Oh, that's
that's the
awesome.
route I took. But yeah, it literally on a hangover, I was trying to find my way. Jake navigating.
It's amazing how many people come on here, myself included, that say that similar thing. Like, man, I don't want to go to college. But my life is not where I want it to be. I got to do something. And,
Oh
the
yeah,
military just saved a bunch of our lives, I think. I mean,
my
don't you think?
my senior year in high school, my English teacher handed out the final exam and said, and she handed me my seating assignment for next year, and she said, "You have to ace this in order to pass, in order for me to pass you." And fortunately, I got a heads up early. But yeah, I ended up doing that just out of
Nice.
high school. So I graduated high school 18 June 1984. I did a delayed enlistment October prior. And then July 10th, 1984, I was in basic training, San Antonio, Texas,
Wow.
3711 BMTS. Um,
Nice.
Showed up as a bunch of rainbows, got our heads shaved in our pickles uniform, um, and met our TIs. And it was an eye opening experience.
Yeah.
2 weeks, I went in open general. I didn't focus enough on academics. So I didn't do well on my scores enough to guarantee. I actually wanted to be a security police.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had an uncle, my other mother's brother, Uncle Mickey. He died at an early age, and he was the chief of police of our town, doing some incredible things on war on drugs and things like that. This is '70s,
Wow.
and I kind of want to follow his footsteps, sort of thing. Be something,
Yeah.
I guess. Anyways, but since I went in open general, of course, wasn't available. So that period when they finally realized that we can brainwash this guy, they'll make it into the military. We went in this room, and again, this was 1984. I remember the room, and you could smell that. I don't know if you ever the old carbon copy
Oh,
odor.
yeah.
You could smell
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
in the room, and on this, on these tables were these piles of single sheet papers, and what the way I remember it was, and I heard Marty talk about this too.
Yeah.
They were jobs available, and the stack was how many positions in that job. I want to say I was the last guy in the room. There's one sheet on the paper, and it's tactical air command and control specialist.
You didn't have much choice.
And I'm like, I guess this is where I go. And it was the only sheet. There was only one slot available in my flight. So
Unbelievable. Were you just like the last guy in there, or what was the deal?
that's the way I remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a follow along kind of guy. I was an independent.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends in high school growing up. The jocks, the geeks, the drama queens, and all that stuff. I was kind of on my own. I was a dear Abby. Everybody talked to me, but and I just stuck to myself.
Good.
So I would imagine I was kind of close to the end. If they did it alphabetically, would you file? I was a tall guy, so file in, blah blah blah. I
Yeah.
don't know, smoke them if you got them. But yeah, it was it. And even like other guys have said, the TIs had nothing, know nothing about it.
Right.
Nothing about the
Yeah.
job. So off I go to right out of high school, kind of a challenge upbringing. I had an older brother that got to go a lot of places, rock, big concerts then. Snow was epic for ski resorts all over the area. This is New England in the east.
Yeah.
And then so I get to Hurlburt, and that was my first real leash off. Let's go.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
and it was epic then.
Yeah.
And I'll try to stay focusing on military path and not the side shows that
Hey, whatever you want to do. I mean, those
it was
stories are just as
wild.
good as the military ones. So
But
whatever, man.
what was interesting is right out of tech school, or basic, we seemed to all trickle in small numbers. Our flight started building up. We were Falcon 11, and
Okay.
what happened was, Paul Ford was in my class then too. I made notes earlier on my phone on trying to remember this, not just the significant memories of people, but everybody I was kind of with. But
Right.
anyways, as we trickle into Hurlburt, um, senior flight gets alerted, and everybody that's been there already gets out on the little paved tarmac area outside the dorms, and we get drilled. I mean, we get PT'd big time, and that's what I mean. When as people trickle in, everybody comes out, and you get the welcoming committee,
Right.
and it's always the senior flights that did it. I don't know if they still do that, but
I don't remember us. I don't remember that if we did that. I can't remember, but I
yeah,
do remember having to like wrestle a bunch of guys. Like they were just, I don't know, they just like grab onto you and you had to like,
yeah.
just defend yourself, and
Well,
you were just the new meat. So
the first two senior guys I met was a guy named Bill White, and a guy named I don't remember his first name. Big, tall, black guy, Franklin. And
okay,
I was staying in. There was a senior flight guy that went to some special training, and I was. There was a bed available. I was in his room at the time. I forget what was going on, but I was in this dude's room. And Bill White and Franklin come in to welcome me and to tell me how much it's my responsibility to make sure this room, blah, 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 just the thing.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Franklin's laying on the ground with our heads like this. And I had to do push ups, and my nose had to go down and touch his nose every time and come up. While Bill,
What?
while Bill had his teeth on my ear, and if I didn't hit his nose, this is my memory, he would be gnawing on my ear. That was
Oh my God.
my welcome intro. And
It kind of sounded like they were into something else.
when we became senior flight, we had the same responsibility.
Sure, sure.
And Paul Ford was in our class. There's a few Fords that I remember through the years, but I want to say it was Paul Ford, real strong Texas accent. I think he was a Ranger guy too.
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
smart, super crisp. I mean,
That's Paul. Yeah, for sure.
he had this little whip, and he got up on the first rail platform there, first floor, second floor railing, and he acted like, this was the routine. He really played the role well on leading our welcoming committee. But
Okay.
every time people came in, the call out happened. Anytime at night. I remember it was the senior flight introduction. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I don't know if they do that anymore. Well, we
probably
kind of
not.
talk about this at work a lot, that the kind of culture really went away. You know what I mean? Like that whole hazing kind of, and I mean, I think some people took it too far at times, but it seemed like one of those rites of passage that you had to do when you went into a certain situation like that. You were the new guy, you got to get smoked, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it was a very different career field then. I want to say there was just maybe 1,000 of us, from what I was told. Air
Hmm.
Force wide, it was
Right.
small. And then in tech school is when I got introduced to the opportunity for airborne. What the fuck is airborne? You know, and
Right.
airborne was additional PT, and it was smoking PT.
Mhm.
Anyways, so a little back up. So my classmates, and I tried to list them all. I got pictures, but I had some pretty epic classmates: Eddie Baswell, Matt Foley, Jeff Strasser, Marty Klukas was my roommate.
Wow. You did have a bunch of hard hitters in there.
And Hundemer, Rob Bland, Howard Motif, Zeke Make. I think there's a guy that always wore a Tonka hat. I just saw pictures. Anyways, their names I forget, but
Yeah.
it was just a hardcore. It was a mixed match bunch of dudes, you know.
Yeah.
Marty and Jeff Strasser was probably the two most physical guys there. There's a couple others, but they're both from I believe Wisconsin and big wrestler guys, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
remember some days I'd come in after PT and there's Marty doing handstand push-ups on the locker, and I'm like, I got to try this,
Sounds about right.
and I almost
Yes.
broke my shoulder. You know, it's like
Right.
Marty has always been a beast,
Yeah.
but it was an impressive time. I mean, we were all training on M151s, tape pallets. We had to learn how to not only drive the Jeeps but backup trailers and stuff like that. Some guys from the city, they had no idea how to drive. You know,
Right.
it was epic. We did a lot of comms training. You know, the radios were big, the cables were big, remote cables were 50 pounds, and you could only get 20, 30 feet, and that was just the
Right.
control head. And then some of the things I remember was the instructors, Bruce Morrison, Batman, we called him. He had this old T-Bird type thing, and every time he drove in, we'd be like, no, 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 Batman. And Bumgarter, Wally Kleber, Chief Nostine, I think was the chief down there. Wally Kleber, he'd do this all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And these are names that later on you didn't really hear about much in the career field. I don't know, but again, there's multiple layers of our career field as time progressed.
Right.
Not clicks, I won't say, but who are some of the other guys I wrote down? But anyways, and it was I remember we had comms class where we'd have to do brevity notes. You know, like you were the guy manning the Air Force Air Request Net, and you had to, hey, this is me, the DEs, the this is, and AR is over, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Man, I forgot about that stuff.
And you had these headsets on, and you had these walls of radio transmitters, and they'd press, and you'd have to do your comms log,
Yeah.
and all that. And it was, it was some pretty wild stuff back then. You know, I think we did
Yeah.
a little bit of Morse code with the teletype, but we didn't communicate with that anymore. But they did an intro of that.
Uh-huh.
And then my class, we weren't. They were switching whether we go right from 275 training to SEER school, or we don't have the funds, so we don't. So my class, there was an instructor there, Chip Burgess, that put on our SEER school, and he was a scary motherfucker. I remember distinctly when we did our class, we were supposed to navigate to this point, and somebody was going to come meet us. We are not to look. We are not to move. We are not, we respond with what we has to. I remember being buried in the nastiest stuff, and I'm literally face down on the ground, and I was not about to look up because the intensity of the instruction and the instructors were just wild.
Yeah.
PTO, Barnes, Scruffy, we called him, and Jody Dice. And it was also Todd Armstrong was our senior. He was our class.
Okay.
He was a staff sergeant. And we also we learned about cross trainees, aka retreads.
Yeah.
And which was another layer of our career field through the years.
Definitely.
And so it was interesting. I think all of our class graduated. I think we may have lost one or two just it didn't match. And I think those we lost were retreads. Donnie Pugh, Stinky, was another classmate. And when we graduated, we got our black beret and the Tactical Air Command badge.
Oh, okay.
This was before Flash and Crest.
Right.
So, yeah, me, Jeff Strasser, Matt Foley. There's two other guys. I don't remember the name, but Matt Foley. We were all focused on airborne.
Sure.
On the PT, and it was smoking.
Yeah.
And again, PT itself was smoking. I mean, I remember running around the base where, July through December, a lot of rain. We were doing scuba in the ditches there.
Right.
I mean, it's just that they told you to do it and you did it.
Right.
And then I also had the experience of we had a competition come through during our flight.
Oh.
And I remember it's like they recommended we do not go to the NCO club.
Did you take that recommendation or did?
Oh, we wrote it. We noted it. Yeah. And some stayed away, and I didn't. It was just too interesting.
Sure.
And it was wild.
Yeah.
It really was. To see guys. I mean, these. Again, we were in pickles. The Air Force green uniforms, and here's the rest of the base is in pickles, or blues. And here's this small group of guys coming in that are camouflage uniforms, jungle fatigues. They're different.
Yeah.
And they did not act like the rest of the base. So there's a lot about tech school back then that was just incredible. The radios and how they worked and what you learned, it was all about communication.
Right.
Putting the pallets together. So anyways, after that, airborne school, right away, go up to Fort Benning. And I have to say I had, at the time, I would say I had a fear of heights.
Okay.
But I've learned it was more of a kind respect of heights.
Sure.
Fear is just an emotion.
Right.
So we get up there, there was a black guy, just brick shit house. Strasser, Matt Foley, and this other guy. And I want to say there's one other. So we get to the first day and they try smoking us, and Foley and the other guys, they want Iron Mike. They want to win the award.
Uh-huh.
And me and Jeff, we really, okay, we could, but let's just see what this is like.
Right. So
the first PT session, it's a fucking joke. After what we've been through, this is a joke.
That's what
Jeff and I, we get sent to the sawdust pit, the gig pit,
mm-hmm.
and then we get really smoked. So the next day, they, initial PT, we go through the training. I don't remember a lot about the airborne training. I do enough, but the cool thing was, so like the second day, they do the normal introduction. Everybody's racing up there, and then they drop everybody for the first push-ups, and there's me and Jeff Strasser standing up with our hands up, and they're like, "Air Force, what the fuck are you doing? We want to go to the gig pit. It's better PT over
there." Of course. I
mean, coming out of tech school, you're
just specimens. Yeah, just beasts,
superhumans,
right?
Led to believe superhuman.
Right. Yeah, I felt the same way. I didn't feel that jump school was very difficult at all. I mean, it was like, yeah.
The difficult part was putting up with the Army bullshit.
Right.
It was not the Army bullshit, but the Army way of doing things. You called it bullshit then, but as you moved along in your career, you realized they do it the way they do it because they have to do it.
Right. Yeah. There's just too many of them to do it a different way. I mean, it has to be that way. Otherwise, you just have chaos. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One significant emotional experience on airborne school, two of them actually, was I was always known for my mustache. I always had a mustache. So airborne school, of course, not only don't like hair on your face, head, and everywhere. But they didn't like Air Force. They didn't like the other branch, or they gave us a hard time.
Sure.
But I happened to have this one black hat caught me a few times, and he zeroed in on my mustache. Air Force, this is not in regs. And I'd come back and I'd shave it down, and I'd, little patch. So I had literally just this patch of hair under my nose, just basically F you to this guy, right? And I met him. We were going up the 34-foot tower, and there he is. He's the jump master in the door. He sees my little patch of fur, and I can remember he grabbed it and pulled it out far enough where I could see it. And he says, "This will not be on your face tomorrow. Do you understand?" And I just, yes, airborne. And he kicked me out the door. So, and then the interesting part about airborne school for me was, or what I thought was there, was we had a Christmas break. So we did the 34-foot tower. We didn't do the Mighty Ungawa. We're going to do that after break. So you got these guys that are wet as sheets, and now we've gone through the beat the body, PLF, feet and knees together, or check your canopies and drop
right.
for not listening right, attention to detail.
Yeah.
And then we go away on 2 weeks break. And then the number of guys that didn't come back were astonishing. So we did get the hit the pole, man, hit the hole. We did the Ungawa. That was cool.
Yeah.
The 250-foot tower. And then we went into jump week. And back then we had 141s and 130s.
Nice.
I got to jump out of both. Out of 5 jumps, 3 of them were eyes welded shut.
Right.
The 4th one, I finally opened my eyes. I'm like, this is fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then the 5th one was our night jump. We actually did a night jump.
Oh,
and
cool.
I can remember on the DZ, we had this female lieutenant that was, soaking wet, maybe 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think we were waiting to go on a jump suddenly, or we were waiting from coming. This parachute is just blitzing across the DZ, and you see this body just bouncing like crazy, and they're running after it with an M151 Jeep,
Yeah.
and they run over the risers to get this thing to stop. She was getting bounced. Yeah, I mean, like ragdolled.
My God.
Yeah.
Was she okay, or did she get hurt?
I don't think we ever got, I think she was okay.
Yeah. You're like, whatever, I got to get my own thing going.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all look back and say, I don't remember if they gave us the details on what happened to that or not. Because, you were in the routine, the regimented thing.
Right.
So that was airborne. I don't think, maybe Matt did get the Iron Mike, but Jeff and I, we had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
We had an absolute blast. So the gravity eggs, I don't know if you remember the gravity eggs. That's what we call them. The eggs, the scrambled eggs are so runny.
Oh,
and you had no time to eat them. You just put them in your mouth and gravity brings them down.
Right.
Yeah. Old school stuff. But yeah, jump school was very regimented, the typical. I'm sure it doesn't change. It doesn't need to change.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. And then right from there, I stayed at Fort Benning. I went to an armor unit.
Oh, okay.
Eddie Baswell came up there prior. He didn't go to airborne school, so as a classmate in tech school, he went up there. It was myself, Eddie, a guy named Mike Gamp that was already there. And Matt Foley, we were roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment for a while.
Nice.
Because the Army barracks were substandard.
Right.
But that was my first. That was my first duty assignment, and it was armor then. The regiment was just opening up there.
Okay.
Kenny Watterson, Howard McNeil. Those are two guys that were stationed there. Howard McNeil, Master Sergeant McNeil, was more of a, I think he was a prior CCT guy that was helping start up. And this is January '85.
Okay.
He was helping start up the regiment.
Nice.
All new stuff going on.
Yeah.
But there's some key folks there. Rod Williams, and that was also my the first time I met a TACP guy, Bill McQuegan. I want to say he was a staff or a tech sergeant. Little shit kicking guy out of Pennsylvania. He passed away later on from some, illness, syndrome, disease type thing. Great guy. But we had a lot of great supervision there.
Yeah.
Steve Nassau, Jody Beachy, those are two guys that were stationed there that I've never heard people talk about. But they were buck sergeants. But the training method was throw you to the wolves.
Yeah.
I can remember as an A1C going to meetings with big Army officers and simply told, hey, if you don't know the answer, don't bullshit them. Tell them you'll take their question down and you'll follow up and get back to them.
Yeah.
We were really encouraged to get in the Army's path, learn what they do, and do it.
Yeah.
And it was also, we didn't have a lot of, I don't even think ETAC was part of our terminology then.
Right.
It was just something after a while you went through your training. And, biggest thing was communications, knowing your palate. And we also still having the M151s. We did a lot of maintenance on our own vehicles, you know. I remember changing U-joints and oil changes and shit like that. And the Army would do major stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny, my first supervisor, Steve Nassau, he taught me for the first 2 weeks, I went over his house with a case of beer and a fifth of something different. And we just got shit-faced. And then we go to work and we do PT.
Yeah.
Everybody did PT then too. There was and we also had no radio maintenance and we had no admin support. So we did it all.
Man.
But he taught me, we had creepers and we'd get underneath the vehicles with tools, and then we'd use our sleeve buttons to put around the brake cables and stuff and have them up. And we had a little bell on the entry door. So we'd get underneath on the creepers and then we'd pass out.
That's awesome.
And he also taught me not to put a 5.56 round of blank, fortunately, in a clamp and try to tap the primer with a screwdriver.
Good advice.
We learned a lot of things by pure active stupidity.
Sure.
But it was cool because we got a lot. And then so referring to the cast, we didn't have a lot of cast because there wasn't a lot of cast birds.
Mm-hmm.
This is the era of first fighter, air supremacy.
Right.
Those are the kings of the Air Force. That's who ran the Air Force. But the ALOs I had there, my first group of ALOs, our commander was Major Nicholas T. Somm. One name, for some reason, I'll never forget. He was an F-4 Wild Weasel pilot. And there was a Major Eaton was a RF-4 guy. So a reconnaissance guy. But we had guys that were actually in cockpits,
Yeah.
I remember for the commander's intro, Major Somm sat me down and opens up his humidor. I'm having a cigar, pours me a glass of scotch or something, and here I am, 18. Yeah, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And he's got an F-4 up on the wall there, and I didn't know. I knew about these aircraft after going through tech school because you do the recognition and, crew and stuff like that.
Right.
But here's this weasel pilot, it's like, holy shit, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then we're learning about platforms, and then we're doing a lot of every day was equipment training, PT, um, going to Army meetings, and everybody was involved. One of the benefits I think we had at Benning in the early, and it was all armor too, by the way, at the time.
Yeah.
We were all tank fighters.
Did you have your M151s along with the tanks, or did they give you like an APC to ride along with them?
We had both. We
Okay.
had both. Some units had both, but the primary means of transportation was an M151 convoying with fucking tanks. That was scary as shit.
No doubt.
I remember I did 2 NTC rotations, and I remember one we were and whether you're walking with the Army or driving with the Army, the navigation techniques are always the same. I don't have a clue where we're going. I don't have a clue how we're going to get there. So we're going to move 3 feet and wait 3 hours. We're going to move another 6 feet. But the weird, interesting thing I remember one night, and also we were doing night convoys. This is referring to an NTC rotation, and we didn't have NVGs. We had blackout lights, and we're driving along with our blackout lights, and then we stop, and you see the freaking turret of the tank behind you just come over the roof of the antenna.
Dude.
You're like, we're gonna meet you there.
Yeah.
It was that. So I can go back and forth on those. But one of the things that was really cool about being at Benny at times was the IOBC, Infantry Officer Basic Course,
Mm-hmm.
and where they taught the new infantry officers what to do and all that. But we did a lot of cast demonstrations out there, show of force and things like that. Out at Ferguson Range.
Yeah.
And they had artillery blasting, and they had, squads down there shooting and stuff like that. So a few things in regards to that. The first intro to the range, Eddie Baswell, and I love him to death. But he was a bit lack of navigational skills back in the day. And so he's like, I think, and he may not have been out on the range much, but he was supposed to bring me and Matt out to meet up with some guys that are out there doing some air.
Mm-hmm.
And we take a turn. I think this is the range. And it was the first time I heard live rounds going overhead.
Oh.
We turned a little short.
Oh my God.
And then that's my memory. Eddie, if you do listen to these, if it's wrong, I know you'll correct me.
Right.
And then we get to the range, and there's Sergeant Watterson and Master Sergeant McNeil, and they were controlling a set of F4s, and we're like, okay, where are we? And next thing we know, like literally, you felt like you could reach up and touch them. Here's these set of F4s just screaming over your head, and your heartbeat change. Your ears are just like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's F4s are awesome.
Yeah.
But they're noisy.
Yeah.
So because of the IOBC, we did a lot. And there was one opportunity that they had 3 different locations set up and 3 groups of these officers. And we were each going to take turns showing them how we read a 9-line. And these are Prick 66s.
Mm-hmm.
This is old school radios,
Right.
I'll kind of dig, but so anyways, there's 3 teams set up. I think myself, Sergeant Watterson, and I think Eddie or Matt had a team, and the plan was I was going to be the first guy that was going to do the 9-line and call in these 4 ships of F4s coming out of Moody with 6 Mark 82 Snake Eyes each.
Nice.
And they were going to come in. The artillery is going to do their boom, 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 bang, 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 all that stuff. F4 is going to come in. Well, the F4s check in, fuel problems. We need to jettison and go. 1 pass, haul ass. So I'm like, well, I'm sure the sergeant's going to take it. Just the opposite. Calls up the radio. Shafe, I guess it's your lucky day. You're getting this pass. My first live mission is 4 F4s. 6 Mark 82 Snake Eyes, 500 feet off the deck.
Wow.
I get wood just talking about it to this day. This is This is 1985. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Bird goes flying, and he's so low you can see the pilot like doing his manual pipper shit,
Wow.
and then those 500-pound palms come off the plane, the fins come out, those bombs just like ooh, slow motion, and then boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's that was cool.
And
That
that's,
was
if I
cool.
remember, Ferguson Range wasn't that, you weren't that far away from the targets. I mean, I think it's a click or two, but it was still
Yeah.
great. That's a great show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
very much so.
Yeah,
So, but we didn't get a lot of that, but that's all I needed.
sure.
I mean, I was, whatever was guiding me. Those little things just kept popping up through the weeds and blossomed into incredible flowers that kept me going on a path that will continue to go through.
Sure.
And that four ship at F4s with those 6 Mark 82s was just unbelievable. You couldn't stop. I mean, it's crack,
Yeah, for sure.
Those feelings go that way. But we had a lot of great opportunities there with the armor. We did some NTC rotations, which absolutely sucked. And that's one of the things too that really, over the years, because we connected a long time ago about doing this, and I've for one reason or another, I've not. But so I started at least watching them. You got a lot of airborne guys, a lot of Rangers, a lot of SF guys, a lot of Scott Loescher. I watched his recently. That I think he was one of the few that start talking about tank fights.
Right. Yep.
And
his was awesome. Yeah, that was great stories. Great stories.
And I hope there's some guys that I met later that was in the second Desert Storm, that come out and start talking about their tank fights, because some of the stories that I heard were you're in an armored car, but you hear this, right, and there are rounds coming at you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd love to have those guys on for sure. I mean, yeah.
And I hope this brings out a lot more, because there's more sides to R, and I'll get into that. So anyways,
sure.
And also we had the Rangers popping up. So I had some opportunities. Kenny Watterson, him and his wife Jody, by the way, were absolutely a stellar family, and still to this day, they would group everybody together. It's really the place where I felt that everybody was part of the squadron, or the det at the time. We were a family, and we were the only Air Force guys on the Army installation. We fought downtown with businesses because they wouldn't accept our checks. This was when credit cards were very unpopular.
Sure.
Because the Army guys would bounce them. Trampoline Trust was the bank they would use, and all that. And I remember a story where the base commander paid everybody a silver dollar and told everybody to go downtown and use this silver dollar. And then he got the community leaders together, and they saw the number of silver dollars that were spent in their community. And that kind of, the story I heard, was what changed the local, and this is Benning.
Yeah.
Mother Benning.
Right.
Changed the attitude of the community down there. And this was in the 80s.
Wow.
So it was a big fight. It was a big fight on base and off base. And being Air Force, we did good. We wore our Air Force uniforms. Oh, you guys are Air Force. Okay.
Yeah.
But the Army had a bad name. We might not have helped some of that, but and it was an interesting place to be. It really was, because we had guys that would come down. Like, I met Hannikin, keeps coming up in my memory, because a lot of those guys in their younger days were just, you saw them, and they were, I don't want to give them the title of godlike, but they were just a force that was incredible, a moving factor. So many stories about Hannikin, the number of things that he got accomplished. Johnny Knight was the same. A lot of those guys, Buddy MacArthur. Just the things that they did airborne, was incredible. And so some of those guys, they came down to Benning, because, again, starting a regiment. So I did not get on an airborne slot when I first showed up to Benning because Foley and I first signed in there, and they had two of us out of jump school, only one slot available.
Man.
And I was like, uh, like I said, my first three jumps were in the dark.
Yeah.
I, it wasn't the greatest thing for me since there's only Matt, one. You're gung ho about it. Go for it. He
Sure.
ended up getting out and becoming a C-130 pilot later, but
Oh, wow.
and he did some stuff with the regiment and helped build that up. So, and he was definitely at the time the better candidate for it.
Okay.
On moving things along there. So I have no regrets about it.
Sure.
But I really got to learn the armor fight, the NTC rotations, the planning, and in APCs. There was one NTC rotation. So the first NTC rotation was the typical. We charter a 747. It lands on, I think it landed at Benning, and then everybody gets on and we go. Well, the rotation routine was we all met at the detachment, which was this small building at this time,
Yeah.
not on Sand Hill, and we just start partying, and then we get in a vehicle. And at the time, Benning was also the first place I was introduced to a drive-through package store, liquor store, whatever,
Right. It's
So
probably
we
still
drive
there. There was one when I was there too. It's probably the same one.
on base. On base.
Oh no, this was on like making drive or making road or whatever.
This was on base. So we drive through, and I was told, and the pre-deployment briefing was, okay, for a new guy, was, okay, where's your canteens? Here's your canteens. Because you're in your kit, and you're
Right.
carrying your weapon. You're going NTC. You're deploying. Put a B on one canteen, put a W on another canteen. We go through the package store. One canteen with the W is water. One is the alcohol of your choice that you got at the drive-through package store, and you put it in your canteen, and you're going on the 747.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, this is fucking insane. This is
Yeah.
crazy. So I remember sitting on this big ass plane, bunch of Army guys, right in the middle of Army guys, and you're packed in there. One,
Yeah.
and then all the Army guys around. I mean, we're not all sitting together. But I remember seeing Major Som walking down from upstairs first class,
Sure.
stogie in his mouth. Shafe, where are you, man? Here, sir. How you doing? How you like the flight? He was the type of commander. He walked around checking on everybody.
Sure.
How you doing? Everything good? Yeah, sir, it's good. You got any of that Jack Daniels left?
Oh my God.
Yes, sir, I do. Let me have a swig of that. No shit. No shit.
It was such a different time back then. Was anybody upset about it, or did anybody like say,
They
"Hey"?
didn't fucking say a word.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So then we get to Barstow and do the usual. We're waiting on the buses, the Army luggage, and all that stuff. The officers, they blitz.
Yeah.
They boogie. They get their vans and they're gone. They're at Irwin. God, it must have been like 6 hours. The typical.
Yeah.
We get on these buses. We drive to Barstow. Our introduction to Fort Irwin, walking off the bus, is that F4 Wild Weasel pilot, Major Som, standing there with a stack cases of Lone Star beer. As the TACP, his TACP guys come off the bus, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. As hard as we work, though, is as hard as we play.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the thing that was enforced, man. You play hard, work hard.
Yeah.
So Benning also, the NTC rotations. We also just started playing with Half Quick.
Oh, okay.
Hand dialing in the frequencies. We had these code readers, but they didn't work.
Right.
And I distinctly remember one of our ALOs that came in, Captain Jimmy Welshins. He was an F-15 guy. And we had a lot of great talks. but they actually trained how to make their fingers move in so many different angles, and watching him input, because the air supremacy aircraft had half quick
Right.
for stuff because they needed it. They brought it down to our ground level to talk to the aircraft.
Yeah.
So we literally were learning this stuff, and the radio changes. We'd send our radios out to get upgraded, and how to dial this stuff in. Do 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 beep boop, you know,
Yeah.
and which later became Singars, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just an interesting time. So many changes of stuff, and again, you're wandering around our admin base was Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama.
Right.
And we went there for our firearms training. We went there for all our admin shit.
Yeah.
We went there because there were blue dresses and Air Force.
Right.
I remember our finance, all our travel vouchers, we had to go to Maxwell for finance. Yeah, it was, but again, it was, there's so much that went on there that kind of escaped my memory, but we were all involved. We were all involved in the exercise, even though the Ranger regiments were starting up. Even Kenny Watterson was a big guy that started a lot of that stuff up there. We would see them in our tank world, our tank fights. Jody Beachy, Steve Nassau,
Nice.
McQuiggan, and then there would be guys that would come down to kind of get the Ranger training, the startup of that.
Mhm.
I remember meeting some guys through the years. Jay Regan.
Sure.
I don't know if you ever heard his name.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Hawaiian looking guy.
Yeah, Jazz used to talk about him a lot.
Yeah. Erickson, Jazz. But another significant thing about them is we didn't have any radio maintenance there. We didn't have vehicle maintenance. Again, we did it all. The Army did. So to do our radio, our periodically checked, we would drive all the way up to either Shaw or Pope. Most of the time Shaw, and then we'd be TDY for a week while they go through our radios, or we'd drop them off and drive back down and then go back up.
Sure.
So we'd have to make like this 5-6 hour drive, whatever it was. I don't remember.
Yeah,
in
that's
our
a long
Jeeps,
way. Yeah. Oh,
just to get
jeez.
radio maintenance support.
Gosh. I can't imagine the Jeeps going that fast. I mean, what was the top speed of a M151 at that time? I know you know what it is, but I'm sure you
Uphill,
guys
downhill. Yeah, maybe 45, 50 miles an hour.
Right,
I mean, you
yeah.
weren't doing speeds, but
crazy. Hey, were you guys at you mentioned Sand Hill. There was, when I got there, we were in a shack on Harmony Church. That was where the headquarters element was. Did you move there, or were you already there?
Well, later on in the year, so let me recap. Let me go through a couple of the NTC rotations in armor was most memorable. One rotation I went in a Jeep, and I remember I'm 6'3", 220 pounds, and I remember sleeping across the front seat of the Jeep to keep track of radios. I mean, we didn't really have much but the 5-man tent,
Right.
the heavy-duty tents. And then most of the time you're on the move or whatever. So one rotation was in a Jeep, and then another rotation was in an APC,
Okay.
as you asked earlier.
Yeah.
So we did have those, and we had an Army driver. But because of the relationship back then I don't think we were respected at all.
Mm-hmm.
We were acknowledged, but we didn't have the respect for a lot of layers of reasoning.
Right.
So we usually got workable equipment, but minimal capabilities. And often, there's one time in particular, often we'd have to share it with usually the FSO, which made sense.
Sure.
But the FSO usually was a captain, and we also had Balos that would come from Shaw to help support these, specifically NTC rotations.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be junior butterbars, they would be lower ranking.
Sure.
So the rank structure the Army would try to boss us around and do stuff.
Sure.
There was one opportunity. I was in a APC with Jody Beachy was one of the guys I was with, and we had Lieutenant Balo, which also at the time Balos were flying around in the O2s.
Oh, okay.
The bird dogs, the push me pull me's, and we
Yeah.
had one Balo that didn't make NTC rotation because it just fell out of the sky and he died.
Oh my God.
You know, those aircraft were known to hit air pockets and just lose because they had our 107s or 108 pallets in the aircraft.
Wow.
So I mean, this is dinosaur shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And then they went to the OV10 Bronco, and which had a hell of a lot more power, and they did a lot of things. So we would mix the airfac in with what we're trying to do and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think the A10s were. No, we didn't have A10s then; they were early. But so, anyways, this Army captain was like the boss.
Mm.
We couldn't do shit, and then we kept keep trying to because we're all close. The three of us are close, Air Force guys, and we're sharing and caring and helping out and all that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember Jody Beachy had this thing for these little cans of Beanie Weenies, and they were coming up short on his supply count, and he was a pretty wild dude.
Yeah.
And so you get pissed off, like, who's fuck taking my Beanie Weenies? And it wasn't us, so it must have been this Army captain. Well, we were in a big battle. CS is going off like crazy. Mask.
Yeah.
This Army captain is bouncing off the inside of the APC, runs outside, and he's just totally lost, can't figure out what the hell's going on. He's got his mask on. He's just go, well, later we found out he must have forgot to put his filters in his mask.
Oh, jeez. Oh my God.
We never saw him again.
Oh yeah.
But the armor guys were what a hell of a flight. I didn't get a chance to go to the night. The only time in NTC that was rather interesting is when they did the night fire, the live fire stuff.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
And that was a selected group that get brought over there because it was such a, we weren't big on ETACs. If you had experience controlling, it was usually the guys out of Irwin that were the OCs that were a big part of the live fire.
Oh, okay.
Range there. So I honestly don't remember. I know we did some cast stuff, but again, one of the things I want to remember to say is in all the exercises that I've been to up prior to the infamous 9/11, our BDA sucked.
Yeah.
From observer controllers, whether it was a force on force or a digital exercise, the BCT or all that shit.
Right.
BDA, it sucked. It was like, no way, Air Force, there's no way you could have knocked out, 8 of those tanks. You're lucky to, it's like, come on. You were always fighting. You were a salesman trying to get an airplane into their plan.
Right.
And then they treated you like you had to do 24-hour duty and you had to serve food and all this shit.
Yeah.
Unless you had a good officer in ALO that fought for you and kept up. And so Benning, I didn't get a lot of that Army abuse because we had some shit hot ALOs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as an F4 Wild Weasel pilot, the Army did not push that guy around.
Sure.
And I think that might have been a big difference between a lot of the guys that have been on your podcast before and listening to them. They had stellar ALOs. They maybe had to do some babysitting here and there to tweak some attitudes and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure 99% of the Ranger Soft ALOs, if they were part of their program, were in line with what the NCOs were telling them to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
The other side of the TACP career field was totally opposite, and I'll get more into that. You were fighting to get things just from your own commander and dealing with all sorts of bullshit that the Army would be able to do to you.
Wow.
So, and we lost a lot of great guys, not by attrition, getting out. I'm tired of this bullshit. And it was rough. I worked with some great people that could have stayed in and made huge results for the TACP. But anyways, so after this couple of rotations, the 10th Mountain showed up. 2nd Brigade, 10th Mountain was just coming to life.
Okay.
They had a big plan of rebuilding Fort Drum, and the division, as we know, goes up there. But 2nd Brigade started coming to life down at Sand Hill.
Oh, okay.
And they were looking for Air Force guys to go start working with them. My hand went up, and me and Captain Welshins were the first two guys to work with 10th Mountain while we started building up. So you had referred to, we did build a new structure office in the Harmony Church Sand Hill area. It's a big fenced-in area. It had in the center of it was a garage shop, and then there was a lower building. That was our supply building.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that became our motor pool.
Oh, okay.
Later. And then when 10th Mountain popped up, they brought in, I don't know if a mobile home was still there.
It was. Yeah.
But they brought in a mobile home, and that's what us 10th Mountain guys used as our office.
Oh, okay.
But initially it was just me and Captain Welshins, and to start the introduction and whatnot. And then they were just, the 10th Mountain then was trying to go, sending people everywhere to get all sorts of training. They wanted every officer tabbed out with a Ranger tab. Mm-hmm. That they were selling themselves as just short of a Ranger.
Okay.
In what they would do. Too light to fight, too dumb to run is what a lot of guys would say. But it was actually what started what I think my career path. The first thing we did was we went up to Dahlonega, Georgia, and we did a lot of mountain training, mm-hmm. nav training. So I got to see that, not doing the Ranger thing, but go up there.
Sure.
And then and then we went to Fort Rucker for air assault school.
Nice.
And it was me and another enlisted guy. Later on, the 10th Mountain guys that came in, names Larry Miller, mm-hmm. Kentucky boy, Bill Krissinger, Cato. He came out of Germany. He was a guy that was another incredible human that I don't think he stayed in long.
Yeah.
And then TACP guy George Lucky. He was a tech sergeant. He was our NCOIC. Buy high. Lucky's pawn shop. Buy high, sell low. A hilarious guy, but an older guy. But man, he was a hard charger. He wasn't a real physical guy. I don't know if you ever met him.
I don't think so. The name doesn't ring a bell.
He was probably an old 304 guy that just got twisted and changed.
Uh-huh.
But he was our NCOIC, and just he knew a lot of the administrative stuff. He knew a lot of. He was a good NCOIC leader. Okay. Who was some other guys there? But anyways, we started. Tom Woodruff was a guy also that I did, but I don't remember who I went to JOTC Panama my first trip with. But it was let me back up, Rucker. I went with one other guy, Air Force guy. Maybe it was Tom. Me and Woody seemed to be traveling a lot together. Maybe he was the first one there. But we went to Rucker, and 10th Mountain shows up at Rucker, and all Pathfinders were running air assault then.
Okay. And
it was nothing but orange door Hueys flying around. So trainer pilots.
Right.
So 10th Mountain shows up and goes, if you got a record, we're going to break her. If you ain't got a record, we're going to make it. And the Pathfinder guys are like, oh, okay, come on, let's go on a little run. And they just start sprinting. They take off, and everybody, and we're kicking ass. We're trying to do things, but anyways, we go through air assault training, and that's also the first time I got introduced to the difference between a confidence course and an obstacle course.
Right.
A lot of high, mentally challenged type thing versus you don't need a brain to do it.
Sure.
But this was a confidence course, and every obstacle you got off, drop, push-ups, air assault. Me, I air assault, Air Force, and then drop. What are you doing, Air Force? Drop, get down, do it right. And I remember there were some obstacles where I did probably 4 or 5 iterations of push-ups because I always said air assault, Air Force. Just like probably some of those times you remember me from the Lightning Challenge,
Sure.
I probably wasn't a big competitive concern, but I just instigated enough to people had to work harder. Anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
So air assault was pretty cool. I remember the graduation, 6 mile ruck march, 12 mile ruck march. I had pulled a muscle in my back or something, and I started popping Advil. And at the 6 mile turn, I was like the last guy. Everybody was on break. I was the last guy. But the Advil just kicked in. So I just turned and kept going.
Yeah.
And there was a couple Army guys, and I racing to the finish line because they didn't want me, the Air Force guy, to beat them.
Yeah.
So, but air assault was the first class that I, got the Army testing procedures down. The instructor would go through everything, and then they'd read over.
Yeah.
You might see this,
Good stop.
And,
yeah, for sure.
which was helpful for me because I've always had an issue academically. Even school was tough for me. Tech school was tough for me. Even the recognition symbols, the lightning challenges. The part that I always sucked on was the mental stuff, the academic stuff, and then testing through the career. Through my career was insignificant, so to speak.
Yeah.
But so after air assault, we went to our first JOTC rotation. Fort Sherman again, 10th Mountain down there. We want to do everything, and that first one was more of a. I was kind of not the senior guy, but I was well involved with the Army, with the 10th Mountain, knew them all, and was getting. I kind of went around the whole entire course to see what they offered, a little bit of everything. We did some of the mortar training. I remember the first one, we did a lot of the guerrilla warfare stuff, where they actually took you down these trails and they showed you how to do booby traps and stuff like that. And, you walked into some Mach 1s. And it's also where we did that, the landing craft for our exercise. We went on that old World War II landing craft, and we beached on an area, and then we did a movement to the objective.
Oh, cool.
And it was all tactical. It was everything. We set up a rally point, and one guy went to set his stuff down. He said, "Go over by that big tree," because you got these massive tree roots, that you could hide a body behind.
Right.
And one guy went by there to set up as his little security position. And next thing you know, he lets out a scream like some teenager, female. Right. And we're like, "What the hell is that?" There's this huge boa constrictor on the other side.
Yeah,
massive thing. This is in the wild. So, all right, admin halt. We're going to give this guy, this boa, his space. We're going to go find another place. But we actually did movement onto guerrilla-style camps and stuff like that. And that's where I really learned how to the benefit of walking with the Army, seeing what they do, and it started my kind of supervisory tactics on future. If you don't know what the Army's doing by walking in their shoes, you can't support them by having planes over their head.
Right.
So I started doing a lot of that stuff with the 10th Mountain, and started kind of making a name with the 10th Mountain on doing that. And a lot of it, because that's what I was taught by Kenny Watterson, Jody Beachy, all those guys. That's what you do,
right?
And that's how you got to move up to talk to airplanes, by showing what's going on the ground. How can you do it?
Yeah.
So the JOTC was doing the nav course. We also, I don't know if it was at Benning or one of the other times, but I was asked to carry one of the first man-pack GPS systems, which was like this huge box. It took up the entire space of your back.
Yeah, man-pack, they called it, yeah.
Yeah, man-pack portable.
Right.
And had big antenna, this spaghetti cord that came over to this keypad.
Right.
And we even got the crypto. To have the best possible signal, and it didn't work for shit.
Yeah,
triple canopy.
That's what I experienced too. Yeah, I think it was a PSN 8, wasn't it, or something like that? Wasn't that what it was called?
I don't remember. Yeah, it was a piece of shit something. Yeah, right. POS something. But Panama was awesome. It scared the shit out of me, between the snakes and everything that could kill you, airborne ants, the Army amps. I heard stories of Rangers that would go down there and do night movements, and guys would fall asleep, and they wouldn't know they're in a line of the Army ants, and they would literally continue walking over their legs, and have bare skin underneath and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I paid attention. It was one of the courses that every time I went there, I learned something about either the environment or how to deal with the environment. And I also we did a rope bridge across the Chagres.
Oh, cool.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool. That was the early stages when it really got involved with doing. And again, I have to say, it was all because of 10th Mountain and how their go-getter attitude was, putting everybody through the training. And because of the relationship, Air Force TACP and the relationship with them at the time, they were more than willing to allow us to go around and kind of pick and choose of what I wanted to do, basically, with the crew.
Oh, cool.
And then meeting the folks like Lunk at, I think I met Lunk a few times at there. And we tried to get some aircraft to play cast birds, some fixed wing. Several times we were able to get 58s, helicopters.
Nice.
To just at least give us an air platform and have somebody on the ground to talk. So I always tried to maximize those opportunities. I kind of go through, because there was a bunch of guys, again, 7 times. I remember I took Coulthard, like you had mentioned. I remember Bill Thomas was another name on a drum.
7 times, man, that's a lot. That's awesome.
But each time was just kicking ass in a lot of always doing the nav course. I mean, you can't go to JOTC without really learning how to navigate in a jungle environment.
Oh, yeah.
Crawling through those ditches, reaching up and grabbing the black palm.
Right.
Attention to detail.
Yeah.
Big time. But there was one opportunity where we did Joe's. We had some Blackhawks, and we were really good friends with the Army then, the 10th Mountain. This was a trip out of Drum when I went to there. And jungle operation extraction system, where basically you took your Swiss C, tied it around your waist, and then a Blackhawk came in with a 120-foot leash and a hoop, and you put it around you, and you each hooked up to your Swiss C, and then it lifted you by the balls, and it flew you around to the lagoon right out in front of the barracks area.
Jeez.
I want to say it was that trip when we met you, because I know Coulthard was on it. And anyways, so we did this, and it was maybe 20-minute flight. But the first sergeant, good friends, forget his name, he called the pilot, and I guess he said he wanted the pilot to make Romad tea out of us. So he hovered over the lagoon and dumped us like a tea bag. Which now your shit's loosening up, and then the heavy clothes is good enough.
Yeah.
When he flew over to the parade field and he set us down, neither one of us could stand up. I mean, it was some discomfort, but
I imagine.
and then the army's all there just roaring,
Oh,
laughing.
sure. I'm sure.
You know, they got us pretty good,
Yeah.
but
But
but then
that speaks to what you're talking about. Like they wouldn't do that if you weren't in tight with them. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even
right,
give you the time of day. But since when they're messing with you, when they're giving you a hard time, that's how you know you're in.
that's
That's awesome. Yeah.
amen, brother. Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Um, so so then, God, whether I want to. So there's a bunch of things, but we'll move on because after Benning and to 10th Mountain Guys, it was the first time I worked. What was the only time I worked a follow-on assignment? I came up with a remote tour to Korea,
Okay.
and the 10th Mountain wanted me to come. The Air Force at the time didn't, I wasn't. At Benning, also back up a little bit more. If you weren't airborne, you weren't shit. Was the chant, and you couldn't do much unless you were airborne.
Yeah.
You and by that meaning is you
Like you're
couldn't
on
get out and
status.
do training. Those exercises until 10th Mountain came in. There was probably very little chance of me getting air assault and stuff like that because I was with the tank guy.
Oh, okay.
I was with the tanks. So, but I mean, competitions, you'd go down there, you ain't airborne, you ain't shit,
Yeah.
It was mostly an airborne show. And early on in those years, kind of going, you didn't, some of, God, it wasn't, Korea definitely had a competition in Korea to go. But if you wanted to go, put your hand up because you were going to the competition. It was an airborne get together. It was more of that, or later I found out people from all over go, not just airborne, but
Right.
the mentality and the out of Benning went up to brag a whole bunch of times and met some of the stellar humans up there,
Sure.
Avance, Ramos, like I said, Hannikin, Banicki, McKenzie. I don't know if you remember big redheaded guy, McKenzie.
I
He
don't
went
think
on
so.
to be a sensor guy. But who else? Sean Casey was another name up there. Erickson, Jazz. Had a chance to go up there, and one of the significant things that I learned about going to Bragg was not only the different mentality and the hardcoreness of airborne, but you could not go into the Pope NCO club to even cash a check at noontime because TACPs were restricted
Oh,
from the Air Force NCO club because the boys would go in there and they'd steal all the girls, and the men would the other men would be upset with that,
sure.
and we would overcome. And I've heard some stories on some significant members in our career field, Chief V for one, would be a standalone ass kicking mecca. Um, and yeah, a lot of stories on that side.
Yeah.
But Bragg was a great place to visit because it was a similar mentality to what we had at Benning, as everybody really grouped together.
Mhm.
But even some of the guys at Benning, they didn't fucking airborne guys. They're blah 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 blah. There was a lot of it was either them or you or whatever else.
Yeah. Well,
And up until my 16-year mark, it was all like that. It
yeah.
was a lot of airborne was special, even if you're under the same roof.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that
A lot of
when I get
animosity.
to a lot of it. Um,
And I've talked to, not to get out too far from this tangent, but I've talked to a lot of guys who were in that group, some of the guys you were talking about, and they don't even understand it. They were like, I don't even know why we did, we're all young, we're all full of piss and vinegar. So, that kind of stuff comes out. But as you grow older, you realize it's one career field. We're all
Well,
we're all doing the same thing.
however, you really got to look back at the doctrine we were training for.
True. Yeah.
We it was a tank war we were anticipating. It was tanks were what the big fight was.
Sure.
The airborne, the Rangers, all that was significant other stuff, but the main fight was tanks. The main fight was Reforger going to Germany until the wall fell and all that stuff. So the mentality, and that's one of the things that, again, I really enjoyed looking back on my career because I got to mix with all the good blood, bad blood, the different layers, the different doctrines, and we'll get into that. But so moving on, recapping some interesting visits to Bragg and Pope and Shaw. I go to Korea, Camp Casey, Korea, Tongachong.
Nice.
And that was March '88, and just got married to the best looking Army girl on Wainwright. And in '86, '88, I get assignment to Camp Casey, March. At the same time, Team Spirit spinning up there. There's a reason I bring that up.
Okay.
So I get to Osan in process.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was early midweek. I flew through LA. That was my first trip to a big city. And I got a rental car to go find the Hollywood sign.
Sure.
And then was like, ain't no fucking way I'm hanging out in this place.
Yeah.
Went back to the hotel, turned in the rental car and just watched movies. But wasn't a big city guy.
Sure.
Anyways, got to Korea and started the in processing, and that first weekend came up. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go up to Casey and kind of meet the dudes up there, see what it's like.
Yeah.
And again, kind of newlywed. So I go up there. I'm kind of geek looking, preppy sweater, button up collar underneath.
You're right.
I think I had, yeah. Anyways, I go in. Hey, how you doing? Oh, FNG. New guy buys the beer. Nobody really knew me. I was a bit of a drinker.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, I'll buy beer. And we went out and partied in the Ville. Well, interesting enough, at the time, there wasn't enough barracks on Casey for Air Force. So they had an apartment complex in the Ville.
What? No way.
Swear to you.
Oh my gosh. That's dangerous, dude.
And we were just starting to get Humvees, and we had a Turtle Hummer. That was our transportation back and forth from this apartment complex.
Oh my gosh. That just sounds like trouble, man. That just
we again, yeah. It was
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great.
I want to say there were 6 apartments, 2 per.
Wow.
And then there was the head shed. So guys there, so again, Benning, Bill McQuiggan, incredible human being. Unfortunately, he passed away at a young age. While I was in Korea, I want to give remarks to Doug Gifford, another guy that was an incredibly human being in the career field. The Air Force kept messing with him. He was a larger dude. They kept messing with him about weight. But he was extremely capable. He would do PT tests. He was super smart, incredibly funny. He was my room dog.
Okay.
And he passed away at an early age after he lived up in Dahlonega, was a car salesman or something. And he passed away here over. That's here. Back up to Benning. One other individual I forgot to mention that you may know, Jeff Butler.
Yeah. Yep.
The Bud. Well, Jeff's was a retread.
Uh-huh.
And on his way to the schoolhouse, he stopped into Benning in his pickles with his buck sergeant stripes. And he's like, yeah, I'm just in his black Camaro. And yeah, I'm going to take some time here instead of burning up Lee before I go to schoolhouse. Just thought I'd come and check in with you guys. All right, how you doing? He went up to the head shed. He sends him down to that little building on the bottom of the hill there.
Uh-huh.
This is the new facility fenced in. Go down there. The guys are getting ready to do cleanup and go help them clean up. Well, he puts on the Air Force buck sergeant and he starts bossing people around on what to do. All right. So we had a good time with him. And then I think Monday, he was driving down to school and I remember walking up and I'm like, so, you know, you had a good time. I think you'll enjoy schoolhouse. You got a nickname? What do they call you? Red, Carrot Top, Butt. His annoying voice. No, you can call me anything. You can call me Carrot Top. You can call me, but you don't call me Butt. All right, Sergeant Butler. Have a good trip. I
Yeah.
walked around the shop. Call the schoolhouse. Hey, you got a retread coming down there. He does not like to be called Butt. Anyway,
That's like the cardinal
I
rule. You never let on what bothers you. You never tell the guy, anybody, that you don't like something. I mean, that's the number one thing they're going to focus on.
well, I think he was the first example of Air Force retread for me that I'll use in a pod. And by the way, Jeff's no longer with us. He's another guy that died early age, unfortunately. So he became a really, really good friend, roommates of mine. I loved him to death. He was annoying as fuck, I will say, but incredibly smart. Yeah, a stellar human. But he was a retread that came into the TACP world, cross trainee. Retread might be negative, but we'll continue to use that. And he tried to bring the Air Force into TACP life. Many tried, many used it as no, we don't do that. We're Air Force. And in early years, we were thick with retreads.
Yeah.
And we started with retreads.
Right.
304s turned into us. So it was rough outside in the regular TACP world. Airborne, they ate them up.
Yeah.
If a retread got into airborne and did what we experienced, they had a duty assignment come up and they never came back.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So, but Jeff was the first one that I met, retread, and that I felt did really well for us in the times that he was stationed, because he came back up to Benning. We were roommates, and then we did a lot of stuff. So anyways, on to Korea. I need to bring up Jeff because later on, when I got to Alaska, Jeff had come in to visit me. He was in Hawaii, and we had a good time. And then after I retired, Jeff reached out to me, just seeing if there's any work opportunities. I guess he got into some trouble or something, and then he was thinking about coming up there. Mm-hmm. And then I found out they found him dead in a vehicle in some Jersey truck stop. So
that's a shame.
I don't know, but so he was another guy. I want to make sure that a lot of people knew Jeff, annoying as fuck as he could be sometime, but his laugh was you could pick him out from miles away. His cackle, and but he really was a smart and capable dude for sure. And that Doug Gifford brought that up. He was good. So I go up there to KC. I fall into the new guy buys the beer, so we're partying, and then I that's where I got introduced to the apartment complex in my room with Doug, with Giff, and guys there were Jeff Goss, Steve Carnes, Zippy, Dave. We named him Zippy. He was quite the technical geek. Zippy the Pinhead is what we called him, but we just told him his name was Zippy, and he liked that. God, what was his name? Man, there's a lot of guys. Marv Palmer. Marv Palmer was kind of the NCOIC. Terry Saunders was there. Steve Burrows. I don't know if you heard Steve Burrows' name.
Oh, for sure.
He was there, and he wasn't well liked, and not many people did like him, and he seemed to be guiding us in weird directions. But Steve was a super smart guy, and he definitely was a role model for me in many ways. But so I go up there, we go out partying, I was low key, do stuff, go back to Osan in process, and I met this guy from Kadena. Heard I was a TACP, and I was just the team spirit's flooding it. He's like, man, I heard about you guys. I want to party with you. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, I'll take you down to the Golden Gate Club, which was, I don't know.
It doesn't ring a bell, but I'm sure it was down there.
Oh, it was like the stellar place to go. It was a dance club, but you mingled with everybody. You know, there was flesh flying around, but it was a decent place.
Okay.
Anyways, that morning I was supposed to go to the newcomers orientation briefing, but they bumped me from going there to have all the team spirit guys there.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get the STD, soju, and all that stuff briefing. That one was. So that morning, it's like, well, I got to do something. So I went to the rec center, and they had a big case of movies that you can rent in the sound room with hi-fi TVs, DVD players, and all that. And I watched Pink Floyd The Wall, my very first time. It was epic. I watched it to the credits rewound on its own. Anyways, I go back to the room, and that night, I just didn't feel like going out. And then this guy rolls in, and he's like, yeah, I heard about you guys. They give me pussy. So I'm like, all right, dude, let's roll. So we went down to the Golden Gate Club, and I remember ordering the second ammo bowl, and then the lights went out. And then I came to face down on an orange carpet with two SPs going through my wallet. That's when I got introduced to handcuffs and ankle zip tied. And that's when I also met Dennis DeLay, the great Dennis DeLay. I'm sure you've heard the name. May he rest in peace as well.
Yeah.
And I think I met Airman Schleich at the time.
Okay.
He was in there for a team spirit, which I think he would agree. When I first met him, I'm like, Schleich. No, it sounds like Squelch. Yeah, your name's Squelch. You should be Squelch.
Oh, so that's where it came from. Okay. I always wondered where that originated.
It seemed to make sense to.
Sure.
But anyways, so I took this guy out. I got pretty wasted. Soju experience. And if it wasn't for missing that orientation briefing, I would have been out of the Air Force, because I guess I came out of the bar with a beer bottle in my hand, and Town Patrol didn't agree with that.
Yeah.
And supposedly Dennis DeLay found out, because he was down there getting ready to go for Team Spirit, and he was a great guy that could mix with everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe he was a former cop, but he found out that a couple cops took advantage of my drunkenness and, did their nice thing trying to get away. But when they went to put the hand on my body to move me around, that's when I started trying to beat the fuck out of them. Totally out of character. I'm a teddy bear. I really am. So that's when I got introduced to the billy club to the legs and knocked down, and they handcuffed me. And then when they went to get up off me, I rolled over and started kicking the fuck out of them. And that's when I got introduced to the zip ties, thrown in the meat wagon, and brought to the SP shack. But somewhere around here, I got a 1.5-page police report with the front cover says obscene. And back then, 88, in type was everything any TACP ever said, did, mentioned about SPs and blah, 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 and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I had guys coming from all over. Marv Palmer saved my ass, because he pointed out that I didn't go to the newcomers orientation. I had a LOR with a UIF over my head the whole entire time, basically a hammer that was going to fall, that if I just stepped sideways, I'd get crushed. So fortunately, but it did keep me off soju the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But the point of sharing all that is when the news got up to Casey, that the new guy, Shaffer, senior airman at the time, got busted on soju, good friend Doug Gifford stands up tall. Yeah, that's my roommate. Because before I got to Korea, I heard stories that, and I don't think this was what caused me to do what I did. That was pure irregulated soju.
Sure.
But stories of guys in Korea where they had this club called the Troll Busters. And to be president on the chain of command of the Troll Busters, ranking was based on how many STDs you had.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So, and I share this because this is the mentality, this is the attitude, this is the party hardware, and this is Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, I did more CAS missions in Korea than I did probably the rest of my career. You know,
Same.
we Scorpion's Tail, we had passes to drive, and this was still M151s. You know, we had passes to drive all over, and our point was, you know, we carried our ACACs, we carried all our real world stuff just in case the bubble, the North came south. We had AFARMs, we had, you know, all that stuff to just in case. We checked in daily. We had a duty dog that monitored the HF for the ASOC, and you know, it was like every day potential full scale alarm. But we had passes. I remember, I forgot who it was, but we actually drove an M151 all the way up to the DMZ.
Jeez.
Like when you take the bus tour and it goes in the park, we parked next to the tree that got chopped down for the tree incident thing there.
Oh, really?
In an M151 camouflage uniform. To this day, I can't believe we did that. But the folks up at Camp House. So trying to recap some names that were there. Jeff McDonald was there. Ace Husino, Gabriel Salas, Junior Miller, John Miller. God, I wish I could remember Zippy's name. Just a stellar human. Super smart guy. But some guys from House, because Camp House, we had an even further site that TACPs were at, and further north of Casey called Camp House. I don't know if they shut that down over the years. Have you ever heard about it?
No, I'm familiar with it.
I also met Lunk there. Lunk was up at House, and his sidekick, Scott Root. I don't know if you ever heard or met a Scott Root. Oh my God! It was whenever those two were together, you were pissing yourself laughing. But the intensity of everything there was just escalated from what I learned at Benning. You know, you got in with the Army. I was a division TAC guy, and some key things that I can remember about what I think formed my career is even when we did exercises, and then when we got involved with team spirit. As a DTAC guy, it was all about communications with the lower echelons, you know, staying focused, having your comms 100% right, you know, setting up that 32-foot whip instead of the 16-foot whip.
Right.
I was in Korea when, I can't believe I lost a name. One of our fallen that we remember died in training. And he is zapped by setting up the H in Barclay. I was there during the year when, a guy got killed by trying to set up his comms, and it touched one of those. It could be WD wire, it could be a power wire.
Oh, okay.
In Korea.
Yeah.
But Korea was one, and I can remember a team spirit exercise where, again, sleeping across the front seats of the vehicle, having the other thing that new guys today probably don't realize is, you know, we didn't have one RSC. You know, we had 4 screaming speakers in behind us with 4 microphones, and you adjusted the volume because each one had a slight different sound to it. And obviously the FM was a primary because it talked to the Army, but then you had your UHF in case air was checking in. And then the HF radio you could set the RF sensitivity, basically tune down the squelch. So, it'd block out some of the background noise. But
Uh-huh.
sometimes if you had it turned up, you'd miss calls because the HF was HF. It just,
Sure.
skipped across the ground.
Right.
So I would often be, as a DTAC guy, I'd be sleeping in my vehicle, and I'd have, because as soon as ASOC would say, "Hey, I got assets available. Who wants them?" Whoever heard them and responded first got first choice.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So I'd have the microphone like jammed in my ear. I'd have the RF sensitivity down, and I just get a faint, "This is ASOC. Anybody need some cast?" And I would answer, and I'd be pissing people off. It's like, "How the fuck do you hear that? Blah 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 blah. Why Schaefer's always jumping on the ring?" No, I'm just paying attention. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, Korea was cool because every day you were battling the battle. You were planning. You were exercising. You were taking care of your gear, because we there was a golf tournament on Camp Casey, the Commanders tournament. A propaganda balloon landed during the tournament, and everybody just boogied.
Dang.
Leaflet from North Korea and shit like that. Yeah,
Weird.
and then Korea is when we started converting from M151s to the Humvees. You asked about the speed of the M151s, and they could go pretty fast. But one of the cool things about the M15s one you could do is because it was a manual transmission,
Hmm.
but when you drop it from fourth to third gear, get the RPMs up, and then you turn the switch off and then back on, it backfires like crazy. And it was interesting to what the civilians would do at bus stops when coincidentally that Jeep would backfire.
Uh,
Anyway, so we
Coincidentally, yeah.
and as you know from driving in Korea, big vehicles have the right of way
Hmm.
unless you're attacking driving in an M151,
Yeah.
and then you must get the right of way.
So wait,
Um,
well, when you were over there, had they prepped for the Olympics yet, or was it still like kind of crappy
Good
roads and?
point. They were so I was able to experience that. I actually had moved my wife Lisa over there. I was having a hell of a time. I was spending way too much money on drinking, and she wasn't having a good time living with my family. So and the Air Force let me move her over there. So we had
Awesome.
the opportunity. I had the opportunity of being over there pre-Olympics.
Okay.
Everything was dirt cheap. Everything was nasty. I remember floods where, they had sandbagged the bar doors, and you'd walk in, and some guys would go for the quickies, and they would spend more time washing their lower body before they perform their entertainment activity. It
Sure.
was just a nasty place.
Yeah.
But as the Olympics got closer, um, everybody, including the hookers, the call girls, the clubs, would have to come out and clean their street. People couldn't piss or spit on the sidewalks. They really cleaned it up, and then we
Yeah.
had the torch actually come all the way up to TDC,
Oh, no
and
kidding.
yeah, so it was cool. We saw that, but the place
Yeah.
was clean. After the Olympics, prices skyrocketed. Everything you could no longer trade favors for your coin.
Mm.
Um, yeah, everything, all the prices went up and everything,
Yeah.
and then actually, it started changing I think the mentality, the culture of Korea, because they cleaned it up and all that.
Yeah.
Um, So, one other significant thing that I experienced in Korea was me and Marv Palmer and an ALO were going to one of the ADA ranges on a coast to just see what they do shooting drones down,
Hmm.
you know, air defense stuff.
Right.
I think they were Stingers. Anyways, on the way back, I was driving a Cuck V, a camouflage Chevy Blazer,
Hmm.
and we fortunately were behind a big city bus, and we got into this big traffic jam. It's in the middle of nowhere. I think it was Cholme Range. Anyways, as we start moving, and then this bus starts taking off, we notice a significantly amount of people, maybe 20, 30 people sitting kind of in this roadway. There was like this university in this remote area and a bunch of people sitting there. And then we weren't quite sure what was going on, but suddenly some of them start getting up and they got sticks and they start walking towards our vehicle. And one's got a bottle in his hand with a rag sticking out. And we're like, what the fuck? And then they start beating on our vehicle. And then Mar Palmer's sitting in the back seat and he's like, Shape, get us the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
They're beating on our vehicle and this dude's trying to light this Molotov cocktail.
Jeez.
So I got some space behind this bus, and then there was either a right turn or a little dirt trail where the main road went. But the right turn, you could see from side of the road to side of the road, just mob of people.
Jeez.
And then they saw us and started running after us.
What was the deal?
And
I mean, what were they? Was it just
a riot?
Just a student protest, or turned into a riot?
It was one of the student protests.
Wow.
That was a riot that we found out. So, anyways, Marv's like, whatever you got to do, Shape, just get us the fuck out of here. Fortunately, there was the little freaking Jeep trail could go down, and we fucking bahawed through that, and it curled up, came back up on the road, right where we saw the riot police buses and the riot police sitting down having a cigarette because they just fought the riot crowd.
Wow.
So that started an OSI investigation. I got introduced to OSI there. And they came up from Osan. I had to go down to Osan and, talk about, can you describe the individuals? Yeah. Short black hair, pale face, slanted eyes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that was the description for most everybody.
So so they were protesting, but then they saw the camouflage vehicle and they're like, was the military, were they anti-military protesters, or were they just out there, whoever was in their path, they were going to take out?
Well, they weren't running after any other vehicle besides the camouflaged Cuck V. So
okay.
The speculation is they were anti-U.S. military protests. Because again, back then, there was a large number of younger Koreans that wanted the North and South to join.
Right.
So yeah, that was crazy. That was like, fortunately for that little trail, because how many of us can say, well, if this would have went this way, it would have been different. But yeah, it was like,
who knows what would have happened if you wouldn't have gotten out of there. I mean, daggum.
Yeah. I mean, literally a Molotov cocktail, and we heard it hit the back of the vehicle, but I guess the toilet paper he had in there never stayed lit or whatever.
Jeez.
So, but yeah, so that was interesting. One other cool thing was Jeju-do, an island on the southern tip of Korea, had a pretty cool little training compound there. Me, Hal Sullivan, Chris Cookie. Yeah. Cookie later went on out of the Georgia Guard and was a chief down in Georgia Guard, I know, but he was another incredible human that really smart, challenging, competitive, and lots of stories there. But Fred Burnett, Tom Phillips, we went down to Jeju-do to do, we did some rubber boat training. We did some balance climbing, and that's when I fell in love with Australian rappel. We did a 300-foot Australian rappel there, and that was a really cool course. That was a lot of fun.
So you guys actually went to the course down there. You weren't just down there for training. Okay, cool.
There was a formal course that I forgot how we got wind of it, but and oddly, I don't think I ever did an ASOC tour. I never went because back then it was like, right. you didn't really, I don't know. It was mostly Air Force. TACP guys were there, but it was an assignment you didn't really want.
Right.
But hindsight being what it is, I wish I would have went through there to understand more about what an ASOC does.
I've heard so many people say that. I'm the same way. I'm like, I really didn't have any idea what the actual entity did. I knew who worked there and what they did. I knew they were the people to give me the air, but Yeah, it'd have been nice to
To
do
this
like it.
day, I can probably, that chart that you probably got in tech school where you had the guys on the ground, the FACP and all that stuff,
Right.
CCT. And then
Yeah.
you had the lightning bolts that go up to the ABCCC and all that stuff. I
Right.
could
Right.
probably fill that whole thing in again,
Well, we
but
probably had to do that each time we went to the comp. I mean, it was probably like one of the on the test that you had to fill that thing out.
exactly.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
probably did
definitely.
it a dozen times.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I didn't get to. I did compete at for the comp, bringing that up at Korea, and it was one of those. I excelled in the physical stuff, but because it was a trip to the States, they were pretty tough on the competition there. That's
Yeah.
when I first um, understood how, like Korea, other places, Germany, it was competitive to get to the comp.
Mhm.
Whereas when I was at Benning, it was like if your hands up and you want to go to this airborne show, you could go down there.
Right.
It was a network meeting, but yeah. And then to this day, when I hear Motley Crue, "Home Sweet Home," um, coming on, I think of the guy that song's being played for in Korea, and he's standing on the table, and he's the one having his green bean or brown bean, whatever it was, and this is, he's on his way home. I don't know if you had that same experience, but
No, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
when a guy does his short tour, when it's done and it's his last day there, his last night out, you're excited to go home, and
Sure.
our ritual was you go to a bar, and when that song that's the only time the song's played, when somebody's actually going home. It wasn't
Oh, okay.
it wasn't like a common request because everybody loved the song. That was somebody's going home tomorrow
Gotcha.
to the
Okay.
States. So. And I remember one trip going to the airport early morning, bringing somebody to the airport. It may have been emergency leave, but nobody on the highways in Seoul. We're almost at the airport, and I happened to look back in the rearview mirror. There were some kids playing on. This is like a 6-lane highway through there at the time. Again,
Sure.
88. Seen some kids along the highway, and I'm like, I didn't pay any attention to it. But anyways, look in my rearview mirror, and here comes this big city bus screaming through, and these kids are trying to cross the road. And then I see this one kid, the bus, smoke coming from the back tires, slide a little bit. And then this one kid go under the bus, roll up the first wheel, down between the second and under the second wheel, and then get up and run away.
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
And I'm like, did I just see what I think I thought I saw? And the bus driver stopped. I saw him because I see a lot on the
Sure.
highway, and it kind of slowed down. But we were also late getting the guy to the airport. So, anyways, I didn't stop to check, but yeah, that was kind of a significant thing that I saw in Korea. That was like amazing what some things can do. You
Yeah.
never know. You
Glad
never
he
know
made
when
it.
it's your time. This kid kept going. um, but after Korea, moved on to drum. And then drum opened up another kind of roller coaster of activities. Drum, I got to experience good ALOs that took care of you. And then not so good. I got to experience radio maintenance in-house, supply in-house.
Nice.
Had some guys that really took care of you supply wise. I forget a guy, Tom, up there. Because prior to this, I was the guy reading all the green and white line sheets and opening up supply accounts and trying to max all this because I was helping start up before all the other guys came.
Yeah.
I open up the supply accounts, and George Lucky was a good guy. He understood all that stuff too. So, and then that's what helped me get my follow on to drum.
Oh, okay.
So I get up to drum coming right out of Korea. I think I put on Buck Sergeant while in Korea. And then shortly after I got to drum, they're like, okay, let's get you to JFCC to be this ETAC.
Mm-hmm.
It was the wrong place to go right out of Korea.
Was it still Herbie then?
Yeah, it was Herbie.
Yeah.
Yep. Agos right at the gate on the right hand side there.
Yep.
Um, I was downtown more than I should have been. Of course, billeted downtown,
Of course.
and my brain doesn't work well academically. And then being as yeah, anyway, so I didn't make it through.
Oh
I
no.
didn't
Oh no.
I didn't get certified on my first trip to JFCC.
Oh.
I later went back and was more disciplined and made it the second time through.
Oh
But
man.
drum was yeah, a roller coaster, because not only did I have a variety of types of ALOs, but the NCO level was interesting as well. It was a click. It wasn't an airborne thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was a who you know, who your buddies with, will take care of you. Backstabbing. It
Really?
was everybody got together and did things. It was Second Brigade, First Brigade. It was, but it was all light infantry. It
Mm-hmm.
was um, not a lot of importance on PT training. Varied. It was interesting. I mean, some names up there. John Morcom was an NCOIC up there. Super smart, incredible guy. Had his favorites, I think, and non-favorites. There was Steve Lucas,
Yeah.
came in from Germany. Kevin Burke, Ice. Donnie Willis was this kind of baby face, real young looking guy. Not a real physical beast, but just a heart and guts that he'd do anything. Great guy. Craig Poirier, Jim Mueller, Bill Staub, Stan Zeri was up there, I believe. Jim Long, um, Bob Maines was one of my supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
His nickname was Mass. Bob had um, I forget what it was, but he had some sort of I don't want to say disease or a big birthmark on his face, and he couldn't wear a gas mask. He couldn't get a seal on his gas mask.
Oh.
And I want to say he was a tech or a tech. He was definitely he was senior than me, and he was one of my supervisors. But incredible supervisor, um, and he stood up to the Friends Network.
Oh, okay.
Like, he was more than willing to train and supervise and help out a lot of younger guys, but he wasn't liked because he fought back.
Oh, okay.
Another guy was Dave Ocasio, Yoda. Dave was the first TACP guy that was homosexual that I knew of,
Oh,
and it was in the don't ask, don't tell era.
right.
So, anyways, some other names. I'll get into more of that, but Chris Morgan.
Uh,
Chris Morgan was a guy. I think he was a New Englander. Staff. I think he was a retread. Um, Very interesting character. Super smart. Jim Mueller. I said that. Paul Merrill was a Italian guy out of Syracuse up there. But it was Larry Harris. I always mess his name up. Larry Harris. Um, but it was just a bunch of mixed individuals. 10th Aviation started up there. So did a bunch of stuff with 1st Brigade, 10th Mountain, and more JOTC trips, more trips down to Hurlburt. We did an exercise down to Hurlburt one time called Gator Raid. I want to say it was a 10-day exercise, 7.5 days. It just poured.
oh, nice.
And we still did a movement to contact. We had some AC 130s that would check in every once in a while. I remember going through a chow line one day. They brought out hot chow out, and by the time you were done, you got from one end of the line to the other. It was soup because it was raining so hard.
Jeez.
And then it cleared up, and it was Index. And I remember sitting on, it was one of the parks on the side of the highway there in Fort Walton. that we just pulled in there, and like all our gear was out, and it was just soaked. And we got a pizza and beers, and we, the customary, and we just hung out. But that was the most miserable exercise I can ever remember. But we did JOTC exercises as observer controller when Little Rock was starting up, or Fort Polk. I did a reforger exercise out of drum. Those are the logistic ones that would go into Germany.
Yeah.
And rolled around in Germany for a while. 32 days there.
Nice.
As an infantry guy. So that was a pretty cool experience. But drum, it was a lot of clash of attitudes. A lot of that.
Yeah.
And it was rough. One funny occasion, we were, it's like 4:15. We were leaving at 4:30. We did everything we were supposed to do. We were sitting downstairs in this kind of break room area, just joking around.
Mm-hmm.
A voice comes from downstairs. You guys don't find something to do, I'll find something for you. I had this idea because, reflecting back to tech school, we talked about voice recognition was a key thing. Once you authenticate a calling station and you recognize the voice, you don't need to continue authenticating them.
Right.
So I came up with this idea after hearing that thunderous voice from upstairs. Hey, let's all close our eyes and practice voice recognition. Shaffer, get the fuck up here. That's Sergeant Morecambe. It didn't go over quite well, and I think that's when I learned how to turn rocks over from the sunny side to the dark side.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But it was a lot of great training. Still continuing with 10th Mountain. It's with 10th Mountain, I learned about the by name request system, where when the Army really started liking you, whether you were assigned to that battalion or not, all they had to do was a by name request to go either a training event that they wanted to do, come do a ECAS presentation for them. And if they sent that through the channels, the ALOs would bend over backwards and make it happen.
Nice.
Because they did whatever. Because I found out that the ALOs had reports from the Army that helped their career. It was an alpha tour. They didn't want to be there. The carrot was dangled in front of them that if they wanted to go to something better, they had to deal with an ALO. They had to be an ALO.
Okay.
And Dave Ocasio, who I brought up, he was one of my NCOICs for the 10th Aviation Brigade. I started working there. I'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But he sat me down one day and he said, as a supervisor, it's not about how well you do, it's how well your people do. And he said that when you get a new ALO, the first thing you got to do, because they're coming out of the squadron, they got that fighter pilot mentality, all that shit. You need to take them to the club. You need to sit down and have a beer lunch with them. You get to the first beer, you're chatting, you're finding out, you're being friendly. Your second beer, because the 2 beer limit,
yeah,
and you're increasing it. And then you order that third beer, and that's when you get them. And he says, and then you got to sit them down and say, sir, you're here for 2 years. First 6 months, you're training. You're in processing. You're trying to figure things out. Your second 6 months, you're starting to understand training. You're getting involved with the guys down below, whatever. And you're meeting with the Army. You're doing a bunch of stuff. The third 6 months, you finally making progress. You're doing things. And then the last 6 months, you're out processing. Mm-hmm. So you can either enjoy all that, and we work well together, or you can do what the Army tells you, piss all of us off, and you will absolutely hate your 2 years here.
Right.
Cheers on the third beer. Right. I got patronizing right now. But anyways, a lot of that, as subtle as it may sound, is truthful, because so many really ALOs, so many of the ALOs, the people that made their career was the Army. Mm. It wasn't us. And and up through drum, In early years after that, when I went to Benning, we would get fighter pilots out of actually jet guys, bomber guys that would, have something to do with CAS.
Hmm.
But later on, we started getting, just off the wall officers and stuff that seemed meaningless.
Right.
But drum again was cool. We did a lot of gunship stuff. The impact range at Drum was incredible. We had an A-10 squadron out of Wisconsin. We right around the area we had A-10 squadrons, guard guys. 103rd Bradley, Connecticut. I didn't even realize growing up there that there was guard guys in Connecticut that Syracuse F-16s. We had F-16s come up with 30 millimeter gun pods.
Wow. Nice.
That was pretty wild. Yeah, I actually had a few missions that I controlled where the 16s flying around with this center pod, and it's a 30 millimeter gun.
Weird.
Yeah, rare to see. They didn't
Yeah,
do it
for sure.
often. But,
Like you always hear that capability, but
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen it. Yeah.
Well, again, quick backing up at Benning, we started doing regional intel briefs. We had the intel folks from the Army and Air Force come and give us these briefings on what's going on in the region that we were focused on.
Hmm.
And then our pilots gave us presentations on what their aircraft does. One of the officers down there, Bob Cutler, was an F-111 aardvark guy. And he taught us about the paved tack system, how it rolls over, what it does,
Oh, okay.
all that shit.
Yeah.
So the ALOs really got involved early, and the asset that we had was great, learning the capabilities of the aircraft. And as long as you paid attention, later on you knew how to develop that into your sales pitch to the Army.
Sure.
And then, like we talked about before, if you're not walking with the boots on the ground with the Army, you don't know what they're doing. So how can you sell what we can do? But
Right.
drum, we with the impact range, we were dropping five. I don't remember a lot of big bombs, 500 pounders, but we were doing CBUs all the time, gun runs, cluster bombs. All over
Nice.
the A-10s were becoming very popular because they were so close with the 103rd. And our only clearance was at one of our OPs, I think it was OP9, was like right at the edge of the river. They could not fire until they reached the river.
Yeah.
So we'd have the A-10s like come in. We wouldn't have them come overhead because we were still in the mentality of the F-4s where the shells would be spitting out the aircraft.
Yeah.
But so we would have them like right off either flank, and the OP was right at the river, and we'd be able to clear them hot right over, and it'd go right overhead.
Yeah.
So it was cool. And then as we expanded, the 10th Aviation Unit set up, and they had the Cobras up there and the Kiowas, the OH-58s, and we started developing an aerial observer program with them. And initially they started allowing us to ride up front and learn how to fly.
Wow.
They were doing. Remember, Bill Staub was the NCOIC. He and I went over 10th Aviation, and we're starting to do that, and a couple other guys. So we got flight gear. We had lockers in there, and we would go get training on how to fly the helicopters. We did a flight down as flying to Griffiths Air Force Base, which was also our CBPO. And then the other guy would fly back. And then we started doing jats out of the front seat. And then, it was cool being up front.
Yeah.
But I realized we were limiting what they can do. Having two pilots is way better, but we could see more and be more versatile in the back seat, having both doors open and to
Going
move
from side
around.
to side and had more SA
Right.
that
We
way.
can move
Yeah.
side to side, and that aircraft could stay. And because most of the time the aircraft commander was in the helicopter, he could also see where his attack birds are and coordinate that stuff, like having the FSO right next to you.
Sure.
So the back seat, I felt you could go, you could see more, have the doors open and all that.
Yeah, yeah,
So that was awesome.
yeah.
That was. I mean, with the A10s being right there, and another thing at Drum, we would have an FOL where the A10 squadrons would actually land on the airfield at Fort Drum, Wheeler Sac, and they would do all their rearming and everything there, and then we could get back and actually face to face with the pilots and stuff. Oh,
That's awesome.
huge.
Did you brief and debrief or just debrief?
Most time we tried both.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it was just canned, and it was just go out and do it. It was a range.
Okay.
But it was cool. A couple significant ones was I was in the back seat of a 58. We were doing a full blown jet, launching Willipede rockets. And we got clearance because of the Willipede trajectory and all that stuff. It had to be behind the river, like before the river. So we got special clearance. Joe Donnelly was running the range control, and he was a hard ass son of a bitch. You'd have to bring in overlays and all sorts of stuff just to secure the range for when you want to do this.
Dude.
And the good thing was the guard squadrons, they had representatives there too. They had a scoring range there, so they really knew how to work the range system and all that. So it was multi layers of coordination that later on in my career really helped out in just being able to attention to detail, speaking up, and knowing stuff. And we had to.
Yeah.
But we did a big jet one time, and I was in the back seat, and we were hovering just over the river, few hundred feet. TAC aircraft are left and right, blasting away. A-10s are flying around doing a jet. And one of the A-10s goes, okay, what's your position? And I told him. He goes, what's your altitude? I told him. He goes, all right, stay right where you're at.
Oh, man.
And the pilots are like, what's he mean? Well, just stay where you're at.
Don't move.
And of course, intercom conversation. Well, what's he mean? Just stay where you're at. And we see the A-10 coming around, and then he starts lowering his altitude. And confirm your altitude. I let him know. Okay, stay where you're at. The A-10's coming towards us, lowering. The helicopter pilot's like, what the fuck's he doing? Just stay where you're at.
Don't move, dude.
A-10 flies underneath us.
Oh, man. What altitude were you guys at, do you think? 500 feet? 300?
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Guy. So the intensity of all this stuff is like, that's fucking crazy. However, again, building on, it's all about experiences. Neither one of us can say we learn the same way to be the TACP we are today. Or, and it's all about judgment calls. It's about those experiences. It's how you push it, the extremity of everything, and I think most of all that we learned later on, it's the control factor. Mm-hmm. You listen to me, you do what I say, you give me the right information, I give you, it's a teamwork effort. So drum was incredible. But my experience with other TACPs, we lost a lot of great guys because of shitty attitude NCOs.
Yeah.
The buddy system, you don't fucking need to do that. The lack of training, the seriousness of it, that airborne mentality, you ain't airborne, you ain't shit, blah, blah, blah. And I was still wearing my airborne patch.
Yeah.
I was welcomed enough to be able to leave it on, even though I wasn't in an airborne. Because technically, you're not supposed to wear the airborne patch unless you're in a qualified position.
Oh, okay.
So wearing those patches, but early on,
everybody did it anyway, though, right? I mean, did anybody adhere to that really? I mean, or did they kind of just?
Some people tried to pull it off.
Yeah.
Definitely some questions on you need to take it off.
See, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like, because you're starting to get towards when I started coming in, and it just seemed like there was, not everybody, but some guys it didn't matter if you were airborne or not. They still had a problem with you. Like there's like a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of like you said, like you don't need to do that shit. It's like, well, shouldn't you
Well,
provide all the opportunities you can for your guys? I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of like
well,
keep the thing to themselves.
if we all can stop our minds from thinking past 9/11,
Yeah,
everything prior is we weren't respected as a career field
right.
for the most part. Maybe soft guys definitely were. Ranger guys definitely were, no doubt.
Yeah,
I was at drum 89 to 94. Um, we did a lot of work with gunships because of 10th Mountain. We started doing a little bit of stuff down in Benning, but the Herbert guys wouldn't play with anybody but special ops.
right.
We built a pretty good out of drum. We built a really good relationship with the Duke Field boys, the guard guys.
Okay.
I had an opportunity, went down to Duke, and flew on the First Lady. Excuse me, a 1957 platform that's in the Smithsonian.
Jeez, that's awesome.
I flew on her. Live missions, training missions. They came up to drum for an entire week one time, and we had nothing but day flights. We did some day stuff to learn systems and night stuff, day after day after day for a week. Live fires. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Another awesome opportunity was just before the Bosnia. So back up a little bit. 92 Somalia.
Hmm.
Um, Somalia pre-Desert Storm or before?
I think it was after because I missed Desert Storm, and because I came in March of '91, and it's over. It was over by then.
Okay.
So yeah.
So back up a little bit. I'll try to keep it chronologically. So another thing on what we TACPs were we were the leftovers of the leftovers we would often get. Like furniture. If we wanted to redo our building, so one trip I drove a deuce and a half from Fort Drum, New York, down to Pope Air Force Base.
Jeez.
Because one of the places down there in our chain of command was upgrading their furniture,
Hmm.
and we could have their old shit.
I remember those
So
days, man.
another name that unfortunately didn't. I don't think he stayed in. Sean P. Cassidy, Tim East. Those are two young guys, and remind me to talk about hazing on a guy at drum and how the negative effect became positive. But Sean Cassidy and I, not the singer, but name's the same.
Right.
We drove this 5-ton, this deuce and a half down to Shaw, down to Pope, and first night we get down there because we were supposed to go down there. On the way down there, we get called about Desert Storm. Shafe, do you want to go? We're probably not going, but do you want to go? Well, yeah, I want to go.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But okay, well, continue your mission because I think we did an overnight somewhere along the way, and obvious check in because this is still pre cell phones too, by the way,
Yeah.
young guys. And I want to say computers weren't really popular when I first got to drum either. They just started kind of playing in Korea a little bit, but drum, I don't think computers were that popular. And the 206 is one of them.
Yeah, it was like the admin guy had one to do forms.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so anyways, we drive down to Pope to get this furniture. Get down there, and me and Sean go out with the Bragg guys. And I introduced them to the Bragg guys, and I remember waking up the next morning, and there was a few signs from the golf course in our room. And neither one of us had any clue about. So the next day we went to get furniture loaded up in the deuce and a half, and we'd go to pick something up, and one of us have to run outside and just start puking. And then we come back, and the other one would go out. And finally, it was a little bit later, but our puke pattern became in sync. And I remember one time Sean and I were out puking on the ground, and we happen to look over at each other, and I think we both realize we're now in sync, and we're trying to laugh as the bile's coming
Oh
out.
my God.
But anyways, that was my. But we didn't get called for Desert Storm.
Yeah.
We just saw like everybody else did on the news, and that's when to carry on a little bit further, when Cass started having more of a significant BDA and like JRTC, BCT, those CPXs that we got involved with. We started getting more recognition on what Cass can do. So this
Right.
is 91, like you said, Desert Storm. When we started fighting for that. I remember a JOTC trip, where our JRTC trip, Fort Polk, where I was out as a TACP guy fighting, and one of the observer controllers, an Army guy, him and I are having this pissing contest about BDA. And he pulls out this fucking KIA card, not a KIA card, but a snake bite to the penis card. Immediate, urgent medevac, right?
He
And I
probably had
just
that in
rolled.
his. He probably had that in
I'm
his
like,
pocket, just a special one for guys like you.
this is his "I got you" card, But so that was, but the negative was, he was being a dick. But the
Yeah.
positive was what I got to do was I had to get medevaced out. It was urgent. So the med guys took care of me. They put me on a litter, and then he specifically said I had to get loaded on the top rail of the helicopter, which as a 200 plus pound dude, medics, he was forcing all the extremes, and the blade's still burning,
Oh.
And they're loading me up there, and I'm like, I'm gonna find this son of a bitch. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
But what I did learn, what I got out of it was, when you get taken out and you get brought back system, it was a dialed in program.
Mm-hmm.
You got brought back to the rear, you got treated, and then the chain of command had to, move you down to where you were.
Right.
So if you paid attention to that sort of stuff, it really spun those logistical gears in what happens when a TACP guy gets taken out,
Yeah.
or anybody for that
Right.
matter, the casualty evac and all that system. So it was cool the way it played, but a snake bite to the penis. Come on,
that's no good.
that was the roll the dick card out. But so drum was since we last talked, I was trying to think of this one just like heavy blonde guy, really good, and I think leukemia or something. He passed away early in life, but I forget his name. But I kept doing competitions out of there. Hubert, Scott Hubert. God, yeah. He went down. Not Chris Mann. No. There was a few guys that I took to comps down there to do the intro, JOTC. And again, at drum, it wasn't about. We did a little competition for the to who would go,
Mm-hmm.
but it was mostly the guys that most guys didn't care about it because that airborne mentality, and they didn't take our jobs. They didn't. It's not that they didn't take the job serious, but they didn't think there was the potential that we ended up getting after 9/11.
Oh, okay.
So it was a struggle. We did do a lot of communications training. I remember we rolled out, or at least, the folks that I worked with, or no, one of the things Morecambe always had us do is the weekly radio checks. And then with our radio maintenance guys there, they taught us that if we always go out, especially with the HF, the old, this was before the 206s. If we just went out and just tested the same frequency every day, the radio wouldn't be as effective as it would if we had to do the large spectrum of frequencies. So
Right.
we had those communication books where I remember we would call up airway stations all around the world, Lodges Airways, Tulik. We dial in the BBC and get at the tone, it will be,
Right. Yeah.
We would do that with the HF. We throw up the 16-foot, we throw up 32-foot whip. And then we had guys there that were super smart on antennas, and we actually set up, we got some extended training ground off the base, and we set up antennas pointing in two different directions with long wires in the HF and could prove we could talk around the world. Wow. And we did that by, if you can't talk FM, you're no longer line of sight.
Right.
So you could put up your 16-foot whip and more than likely talk to the stations that you can't talk FM because it's a taller whip, the way the wavelength. But the point is, we really got to learn about wavelengths, frequencies, and all that stuff, and building antennas, field expedient antennas. And then I think drum is when the 206 started coming out. I remember when they first sent us a 113. I think it was a Harris. And they sent us the operator's manual that was like Radio Geek type instruction. And it's like, you turn, there are no pictures. How can we learn? Right. And I remember I was tasked with coming up with Vic R. Ferrari, John McCabe. Was up there. Great friend. Anyways, I remember making like a cheat sheet on how to operate the 113, and how I tested it was new guy out of tech school that they weren't teaching them yet. I handed him it, sent him in a dark room and said, call me by following this check sheet. And he called me. Nice. So yeah, all the new tech stuff, and the 206 was coming out, and then 206 school they made because it was so high tech compared to the 107s and 108s.
Right.
With the 2 kilometers of fiber optic reels.
Yeah.
How many RSCs did you see bounce out of the talk because they forgot to disconnect them from the fiber optic cable?
Oh man,
crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I never did, I never hooked up both reels. Like I only just used the one reel, and then, you know what I mean? Did you ever go 2K out, or wasn't it 1K a piece?
Or was it 2K a piece?
Yeah, I just did the 1K. We never hooked the 2Ks together. I mean, I know.
And again, when you probably talk to a ranger or a soft guy, it's like, remote your radio.
What are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. It's already remoted. I got the handset in the front.
I mean, did you guys even have 107, 108s, 206?
Well, I started. I was at DM, and then when I went to Korea and Germany, so I was, I did all that stuff.
I'm just talking specifically Rangers or
no. I don't even know if we. I don't even know if we had any 206s at the Rangers. I think it was all just man pack.
Anyways, so, the mentality. And the doctrine we trained with them, like, yeah, you probably would remote 2K if you were going to a war where that doctrine would dictate that because they are a signature. I mean, I remember times when we finally got the Army to realize that we cannot set up right next to the talk. We have to remote in because too many times we prove that when we key the HF, we're blanking out your radios.
Right.
We're interfering with your radios. So, and then the energy itself, blah, blah, blah. So, and we wanted not being right next to the talk anyway, so it helped. But drum was great in many ways, but a lot of guys, it was also during the time frame when the military changed their initial sign-in contract. If you weren't, they didn't do a 50% retirement. They did like the 10%, 50%. If you go 20 years, you only get 15% retirement. And then they did the early out program, buyout programs, and all that stuff. They were really trying to clean out the Air Force, downsize it, and the amount of bullshit and lack of seriousness outside the airborne community was just, people were walking quickly. Tim East was a guy that was up there. Drum was also the first time I had the experience of kind of acting like a first sergeant, other than when we met. I had 2 guys that we were partying pretty good, and one guy goes, "So if we got a call right now and you had to take one of us with you, who would you take?" And I gave an answer that started a big fight, literally fists and wrestling and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then another time, Eric Dozer was another guy up there. Another guy, I got called because one young airman was helping an airman and his soon to be wife with affording a place downtown. The soon to be husband was going away on an exercise. I think it was JFCC or something, or airborne school. And I get a call because the friend helping out with the pay came home drunk and passed out on the couch, and the soon wife didn't like it, and somehow he got up and started pissing on the macaroni salad in the refrigerator. And then I was the first one to be called before the cops showed up. And first sergeants are first sergeants for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. They
Um,
exactly. Like you can't be dealing
yeah,
with that and doing regular Tech P stuff. I mean, you
yeah.
have to have a guy that's all they do.
Yeah, and I think after that is when I met you, and that's when I'm like, "Whoa, this is your turn, not mine." But yeah, but drum was awesome. The amount of air we did there was incredible. From
Yeah.
the another one I'll talk about. So Somalia. Um, 10th Mountain headed off to Somalia. We had some guys head there early. From what I understand, did very few cast type controls, more security stuff. But then I went in as a follow on, and under the Clinton campaign rule, there wasn't supposed to be, the initial guys came out, no aggressive forces in there,
Hmm.
so to speak. So we went in as the airlift logistics role.
Sure.
I went in with Major Arnold was our TALO, and then another guy that TACP guy that I just ended up. He wasn't a good dude,
Uh-huh.
um, but but I was a younger guy. He was senior. But anyways, on the flight over there in the C5, um, I met this civilian dude. Because you know how you go, and the Marines hang out the Marines, the Army hangs out the Army, and we stand there like, who are we going to
Yeah.
hang with? We don't know anybody. And there was a
Right.
civilian guy, and I just kind of befriended with him. Well, he was the chief engineer to a merchant marine pre-positioning ship called the American Osprey
Okay.
out of Diego Garcia. They have a reverse osmosis system. They can pump fuel. They can pump water. They can bring munitions. It's a pretty impressive ship.
Yeah.
Um, so we land in Mogadishu 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is the media saying it's wild wild west. It's everything shooting just wild and crazy. Um, we land in Mogadishu, the plane lands, and just everybody like disappears, and it's a total blackout there. And it's like no security meets the plane, nothing.
Oh my
And
God.
the army goes their way. It means, and just me and this other guy, Tim, um, we're like, we didn't get any instruction on what to do. So I find a concrete building, found a case MREs. I take Mark Lully was the chief engineer. I take him. And we go, okay, we're going to go over in this concrete building. We'll wait till daylight, and then we'll see what's going on, blah, 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 all that. So in a conversation, he's like, I just want to get in touch with my ship. They don't even know I'm here. I got to figure out. So I'm like, you probably got communications, right? He's like, yeah, because we carried our radios with us, our portables. At the time, we were meeting vehicles. So anyways, I got up on a guard frequency, called the ship, coordinated with that he's here and what he needed to do to pick up. So he's like, I don't know how you can do it, but if you ever have a chance to get out to the ship, I will take care of you. This is a huge fucking ship,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
ass ship, Navy ship, merchant marine. So few weeks go on. Somalia was the worst 67 days of my deployment career because we had no idea what we were doing there. Even the airlift. I remember flying the bad guy Adid around to conferences, peace conferences, and he just doing whatever he wanted anyways. Still being part of 10th Mountain, I knew the guys, the staff very well. I would go to the ops meeting and get involved with what's going on, and consistently, as a non-aggressive operator, say, we need to get something in here. This shit's getting wild and crazy. We need gunships. We need that. We keep asking, they say, and we're denied. Um, Battalion commanders come in that look worse than the skinniest Somali you can imagine. They're like, I don't know. Watching CNN, the media post stuff, and then seeing our own guys and hearing the stories. That's when my first media.
Yeah.
They're not.
Right.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And then getting into the ops guys. So, anyways, and seeing how much, like, we're driving to the airport, we do some security missions because we know what to do with guns down at the airport, and getting swarms of Somalis. You can't do anything. You can't open the door in the vehicle. You can't do anything. And they're just swarms sticking their head in there. In the meantime, guys are going in the back, unstrapping your stuff and stealing stuff out the back, and you can't do anything.
Yeah. What can you do? Nothing.
There was a few folks that I heard that because they went back and forth so many times, they would hide a guy in the back, and he would take the end of a cot, and when he saw a hand come in, he would just smack it across fingers.
Yeah.
To save gear. We had one general get his eyeglasses stolen off his face, and you couldn't do anything.
Were you? Did you have any weapons at all? Did you have a rifle or?
We had our M16s.
Okay.
We had our 9mm, but you couldn't do anything unless somebody was like this. You couldn't do shit.
Yeah.
We had one TACP guy was riding on a 10K forklift. We were escorting down to the airfield, and he was riding up on the wheel well, just doing a body, and I was riding the vehicle back, and some Somali had this big stick with the meat hook. He reached up, grabbed the beret out of his pocket,
Jeez.
which he could have very easily dug that hook into his leg.
Oh, for sure.
And we couldn't do shit. Somalia was fuck, man.
Yeah.
Fuck. And later I met some SF guys that was there because I left just before the Black Hawk Down stuff happened.
Oh, okay.
And so I got to talk to some guys that were there then, and they said, yeah, the stories, it was like ridiculous. So, but the living conditions suck. I remember first getting there, and we had crate boxes stood up that we would get a 5-gallon bucket, go to the water buffalo, use a water bottle, and do showers and shit like that with. And then my wife sent me a 5-gallon Sola shower bag. We were in temper tents with AC, so that was pretty decent. Nice. But the piss tube fly infestation was just awful. And then we got shitters built with the honey buckets, and we did do our fair share of burning human waste. You can never forget that odor. Yeah. And then the Somali sanitation department was developed. They found some pump truck, and the government paid like a dozen guys would get on this pump truck, and they take bucket after bucket and hand it to the chain of guys and dump it in the truck out of the shit buckets.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably got paid a lot of money to do it.
For them, I'm sure it was.
Yeah. Still, though, but
it was an ugly environment. It really was. I mean, again, hindsight. Even then, still playing the doctrinal, but being having a good relationship with the 10th Mountain, and trying to say, we're getting our asses kicked. We're not making progress here. We need to shut these boys down. They're just, and I, to this day, I think it's their biggest propaganda video for advertising terrorism.
Yeah,
is the shit that we weren't able to do in Somalia. That's what hurt.
Oh yeah,
our future. So, but back to the ship. So one of the great opportunities was so the Black Beret. How many times did we get in a pissing contest with the security forces because they had the dark blue and their suitable sub was the black?
Right.
We would never go to a dark blue,
Yeah.
but they would wear the black.
Hmm.
So I took we had an opportunity to go down to the port, and it's time to ask, how could I get on the ship? So I walked up to the port authority, all military run, had my beret on, and asked, "Hey, the American Osprey, just what do I need to do to try to get out there? Oh, you security forces, you need to go out there and do a security inspection. Here, let me get a tugboat right up here." And I'm like, I don't need to go right now, but is it that easy? Oh yeah, yeah. You need to get out there. We'll just come here and we'll get you a boat. Okay.
Nice.
I just asked a question. He provided the information.
Sure.
So I basically it was our little R&R spot,
Nice.
and I was able to go out to this ship, and we cycled our crew. There's only four of us, two ALOs and me and an unlisted guy,
Hmm.
and we went out to this merchant marine ship, um, and it was incredible people. We got a tour of the ship. We had great food, partied like crazy because the captain, his call sign was the pirate, and he black wiry hair with silver streaks in it, beard the same with a rubber band. You would think you look at pirate and that's him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an interesting time, but it was all guys, and
Wow.
and there was only there was only a few times I went out there, but one of the times the guys were like, "Hey, Greg, what's the chance you can get some of those females out here?" And I'm like, "Let me see what I can do."
Mhm.
Well, because I was such good friends with 10th Mountain for so long, I knew the staff quite well, and there was a major male, captain female, worked in different sections, married that I knew were out there, and they were both friends of mine. So I connected with them, and I'm like, "How would you guys like to have like a little honeymoon cruise?" Anyways, the short version of that is we ended up doing a morale R&R trip for the Army guys because we got to fly down on a 130 to Mombasa, Kenya, just to escort laundry as a week long R&R for Air
Oh
Force.
man, that would have been. How was that? I never been there. Was it
Oh,
nice?
it was another eye opening experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a guy get torched in a town square because he was a thief.
Oh,
Literally, they threw tires on him and just torched him right in the town square. Capital punishment.
jeez.
It 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 was an interesting 5-star hotels. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, it was a good break from a very shitty place. But anyway, so I talked to these guys, and it's an MWR opportunity, and the Army doesn't get R&Rs,
Yeah.
so this was excellent for them. But one of the stipulation was the guys on the boat wanted to see flesh, so having them in uniform would defeat the purpose.
Right.
So they had to wear their PT clothes.
Jeez.
But the ship did great. I got them some camouflage nets, and they set up this big kind of shaded area, and they made this huge barbecue, and it was a mixed gender. We didn't just cycle all the only females.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, so that was a neat experience, and but again, it's based on that relationship we had with our counterparts,
Right.
Army guys, and what we stumble into, as negative of an area it may be, but how positive the things can come out and the
Right.
benefits for all. Because how many times you've been out in the field and have better food than the Army, and they're always wanting to eat some of your stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So after Somalia was back to drum, and then drum, it was time to reenlist. Oh, that's another thing. Reenlistment back in the day, $22,600.25 to reenlist.
It's not bad. I
What are
never
some
got
of
that much.
the 50,000 something, $30,000
Wait, did you say
reenlistment?
22,000 or 2,000? Oh,
2,600.
okay, never mind. That is bad.
25.
Yeah, 2,000 is not good.
And
I
that
thought you
was the
said
only.
22K. I was like, that's not too shabby. But no,
No.
I know some guys that were getting like $90,000 tax free every 4 to 6 years. Like just crazy money.
Yeah, you really had to love the job to want to stay in it.
Yeah.
And bringing in the retread things, we were a critically manned career field. We could not get out.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't retrain into something that you thought would suit you better. You either got out and then figured out some great guys that I know, like Craig Poirier, Dwayne Speece was another good guy up at drum that just was done with the bullshit and just got out.
Yeah.
But Craig Poirier went to work for the Guard. Anyways, so after that, went up to drum, Wainwright. After drum, I retired. Oh no. Okay, back up. My first experience of Alaska. I did a JOTC trip. I think it was my first JOTC trip with 10th Mountain. It was December '85 or '86. We went back to bedding. 2 weeks later, we went up to Alaska to do cold weather training out of Fort Greely, Alaska.
Yeah.
So I went from 90 above to 70 below in 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Digging snow caves. We could fit a squad of guys in a snow cave. We dug out candles and all that. Pulling Akios, cross-country skis, doing movement and contact stuff, we did a 3-day, 2-night exercise. Full overweights, everything, cross-country skis. Lived in old Quonset huts with, you had to do fire guard because it was old school drip feed stoves, packed in with bunk beds, Army style. Me and that was Tom Woodruff. There were some Army guys that would put their hands in diesel gas and then bury it in the snow to get instant frostbite, so they wouldn't have to be out in the field. Just
Wait,
yeah.
so when did you say what month?
This was January.
Oh my God. January, February, like the worst.
Dark, cold. And this is Fort Greely, some of the coldest weather. Bolio Test Center is down there with the cold weather.
Jeez.
So, yeah. So I did that out of bedding. But so that was my first experience in Alaska. And I'm like, I love this. This is because we flew into Eielson, hung out there for a day or so, and then bust down to Greeley where we did the training and came back. And we flew up on a 141 and then back. So again, those old birds. And that was a Tom Woodruff went up to. So anyways, so I put my dream sheet for Alaska, and when I re-enlisted, drove down to Griffiths, and there was a snow squall coming off Ontario, and oh man, it was like 6 feet of snow. It was just insane. When I went to Somalia, I remember calling my wife, trying to be as positive as I could about how great it was there. I remember mornings in the piss tube, and I could see the Southern Cross, the constellation in the sky. And she's complaining about my son, Chris Allen Shaffer, Cass, by the way, was born in 1990. And he was going through the terrible twos, and they had 110 inches of snow in the month of February at Drum.
Jeez.
So I was on a vacation, and she was shoveling snow. But after Drum, I think I covered everything there. The AC-130 gunship stuff was intense. They stayed at the Holiday Inn Hotel. They were up there for a week one time. I mentioned that, and it was just, so after Somalia, when the Bosnia stuff was kicking off, I think it was. They had a big exercise because of the range we had, I think, and the artillery stuff, where they had A-10s, F-16s, F-15s, F-111s, and I think there was another aircraft. I don't remember, but anyways, they had artillery positioned all over the Fort Benning range. Some were camouflage, in the open, not in the open, a whole mix of stuff. Some of the camouflage they were shooting, some camouflage were not shooting. And as the airplanes would fly over, stacked at different altitudes, and then they'd switch through to see how their sensors or whatever sensors they were using can pick up these artillery positions.
Oh, okay.
So our job was to go out there and talk to the airplanes and tell them, okay, the gun needs to fire now. Okay, fire, boom. It was a
Okay.
week long worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was in preparation for, big missions, whatever, testing sensors. But there was one night when it was like the last night, and one of the aircraft goes, "Hey, how about we do a afterburner competition?" A-10 guy checks in. Well, I know where this is going. I'm out of here, guys. F-16
Yeah.
guys light them up, and it's okay. That's cool. 15 guys light it up is that's pretty significant too. F-111 guy goes, "You guys might want to put on your sunglasses because this is going to be a big one," and just lights up the sky.
Yeah.
Um, and it's pretty cool. But you also kind of, when I hear people talking about they think they saw a UFO or, you know, um,
Yeah.
something going on, it reminds me of these times where we're at these ranges, we do these tests, and significant things happen.
Yeah. They can
But
be seen for miles, and people are like, "What is that?" And yeah.
right. When anyway, so that was an interesting experience at Drum, and then Wainwright went up to Wainwright, Alaska, and we initially was in. That was another kind of roller coaster of different attitudes and stuff. Great guys up there, a mix of different types of ALOs, some that kind of think they knew what they were doing, some that just did what they did because they had to, NCOs that were some not as serious about the job, others. That's where I met Eric Kibbe, almost went to a competition with him. Mike Lakin, Jackie Wallace, Chris Ovzak, they were down at Anchorage there.
Okay.
The Raging Cajun, Gary Broussard, Eddie Baswell was up there again. Mike Lakin,
Damn, that was a good
um,
crew you had up there.
yeah. Tony Moss came from Drum. Troy Eck, I don't know if you know
Okay. Yeah.
Troy.
Yeah.
Yep. Jason Minders, Chris Mann, Matt Fute. Um, God, who else? A whole bunch of guys. It's a whole bunch of guys. But yeah, it was mostly light infantry, as you know. Lot of air assets there with Eielson there before Red Flag. Went through the downsizing of the division, changing it from a division to a heavy brigade, but really not changing anything, just
Right.
retitling it. Um, and then lot of great training. The ranges were incredible. Going out back, working with the ADA guys, watching the F-117 come flying around for some of the first missions, and literally they can't. The things we learned about that, the amount of airstrikes that we could do out there behind Eielson, um, live bombs, inerts. Um, it was just a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Army training, going down to Donnelly, DZ area, and doing that stuff. I did a lot of help as the ground support for jumps down there.
Hmm.
That was part of my airborne package I went through. So anything when we did a jump, I kind of volunteered to handle the drop zone stuff. We had the coolest guys, the PJs that always had a HH60 up at Eielson because of all the flights.
Right.
So they did a lot of elevators.
Nice.
We got in really well with the CH-47s, the crews, the aviation brigade at Wainwright.
Okay.
So oftentimes the guy did that. I think it was 14 years, 7 months, 12 days later. I was then challenged with my wearing my airborne patch, um, where a good friend of mine and hardcore NCO approached me and said, "You've been wearing that airborne patch for a long time. We were together in Korea, blah, blah, blah. You ain't airborne. Take it off." And I'm like, "Well, is there slots available?" Like, "Yeah, there's slots available." I'm like, "Well, let's jump." And my cherry jump was out of what is it, a Casa 212,
Yeah.
little small boxy airplane.
Yep.
And I got like 35 jumps after that. Um,
Nice.
and
How
but
was
the
that?
only
Like after all that time, like getting like you. I mean, that's a long
feet
time in
feet
between
knees
jump school
together,
and your
boy.
first. You're right.
Feet knees
Exactly.
together. That's well. I give a lot of respect to Troy Eck and Jason Minders. Those are two guys up there in the airborne program that not only did I become good friends with, I played sports with, I partied with, I went to exercises with, but I really trusted them. And so whenever I was rigged up, whoever was the jump master does his jump master things, but I always went to Troy or Jason and said, "Dude, check me out, make sure I'm
Yeah.
good." Everything else was just, you fall out of the plane
Yeah.
or aircraft, and
Right.
you just and they were all steerables. They were the dash ones we had all the time. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
we had crews from, because Troy's came from Bragg, and Tony Moss that was up there had good relationships with the Bragg guys. So there was a couple times where they had C-17s that flew up with pallets of parachutes and had these big jump fests with some Bragg guys up there.
That sounds about right.
Wainwright was just incredible. It was just, my career was just like a stair step into more and more incredible opportunities. Um, yeah, we had some. We were the Yukon Quest sled dog race was looking to expand their capabilities and looking for help. Do the logistics and the trail proofing, make sure the trail was safe.
Oh,
They
okay.
asked the army. They asked the army to help out. This was '95, and the army didn't have any capabilities to do that. We had snow machines, so the army introduced them to us. Go ask Third ASOS, and I was kind of the only one that had significant snowmobiling experience. So, like, you want to get a team together and do this? Like, do what? Well, you're going to talk to the Canadian Rangers and you're going to do stuff with them. So for 3 years, we did trail proofing with the Canadian Rangers and took different crews. 95 and 96, the lawyers couldn't get their shit together and speak the same language, so we could only do the Alaska side of the trail.
Yeah.
So we trailered up to Circle, snowmobile down to Eagle, met the Canadian Rangers, and then came back. That year we had all the wrong sleds. We thought we were going to war, and we looked on the way back. The gear we had totally failed in a lot of ways. The sleighs we were pulling behind sleds. There's one guy there, Airman Gillies. He and Cowboy Morris, Wes Morris.
Hmm.
He Cowboy could fix a lot, but he also broke a lot. But we ended up looking like the Grinch that stole Christmas because we had to pack everything we had on one sled to get it to where we needed to go. Anyways, so that was quite a logistical and incredible experience. And then '96 we started in Fairbanks, and we were much wiser on gear and snow machines then. And we rode the trail all the way to Eagle, where we had two CH-47s fly into Eagle, we drove our snow machines onto these CH-47s, and they
Smart.
flew us back to Wainwright.
Great
And
idea.
then 97, we trailered all the way to Whitehorse. And then we did, I know Chris Mann was on that trip, Jason Minders, and there was a captain we had. And we did the 1,007-mile trail from Whitehorse to Fairbanks, 60 below. And we had a plugger. One of our tasks was to do GPS plugs on the trail for the Yukon Quest, and we had the crypto installed at the time. So
Nice.
Chris Mann was one of the guys that had a plugger. I think we had a couple, and of course it was 1,000 miles, so you can only hold so many waypoints. So we had to not only do the waypoints, and then we had to write them down. So we GPS plugged the entire trail.
You did all this on snow machines.
Yeah.
Man.
And
Where'd you guys stay? Like, how long did it take you to do that whole route, 1,000 miles?
well, the races, there's mandatory checkpoints. So there's delays. Like there's I think a 3-day stay in Dawson City.
Okay. Well, for you guys, so you were able to go to these checkpoints, get a hotel or something.
There's very few hotels in Yukon.
So what'd you do? You just stayed out there in a tent or what?
The Canadian Rangers, they're not like our U.S. Rangers.
Yeah.
They're more like our National Guard, or Boy Scouts. So they're part of the communities across Yukon, and then Alaska's a different story. So the Canadian Rangers had a lot of friends and some of their families. They had Canadian Rangers along the trail between Whitehorse and Dawson, and they would have accommodations for us set up. Or there's community centers that we would sleep on the floor and stuff like that. So, but oftentimes remote cabins and just,
Well, at least you had a roof over your head. I mean, that would be miserable to be out.
Sometimes, yeah. But even, it's a wood stove and you're packed in and you're moving and that. And I think I would have to say the guys that went with me probably, it's not something they would ever do again. But I think it was an experience that not only sucked, but was incredible as well. So,
well, for people that haven't been to Alaska, the way you're explaining it, you're really downplaying how hard what you did is. I mean, it's not easy to. I mean, it's very difficult. What you're explaining to me, I'm picturing just misery the whole time. Just like I don't know.
Well, there was one. I think it was the second year when we were heading out to Eagle, where past Central we ran into Birch Creek overflow, and I was the lead sled. Glenn Detour was another name. He was riding with us, and I want to say Jason Minders was there. But I'm on a Yamaha Bravo, pulling a skiff behind with very minimal gear at this point. We smartened up. And going along the river, all of a sudden you feel the sled kind of break through overflow and going, and then boom, it comes back up. And then going, you drop through again. Well, there's one section, it was like 2:00 in the morning because our mission was we stay far enough in front of the lead team to make sure the trail's safe and well marked, but yet close enough to where if we have to go back because of weather changes. And
Sure.
Anyways, so but there was one point where I was leading, and suddenly I see in the headlight of my snow machine ice cracking out like a spider web in front of us, and I could feel my sled just slowly bogging down. So the only option I really had is to kind of guide myself to where I knew riverbank one side or the other and get over there. And then I got off on what was ground and we stopped, and the whole entire track of the sled was just one solid block of ice. We spent 7 hours chiseling out. The story I got later from Jason Minders, who was behind me, was, the first sled kind of breaks through and the other guys see what's going on, and you kind of can't really go off trail because it's overflow. But you're not getting bogged down as much, but you can't go as fast as the other guy. But Jason's story was he saw the ice split out in front of me, and he saw me kind of going down deep, and he's like, holy shit, how we can get off. So yeah, and you can't go anywhere because the sleds, you can totally break metal with the amount of ice and the way it freezes up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it's, 40, 50, 60 below and pitch
Ah,
black.
I mean, yeah,
But,
that sounds
but,
like a nightmare.
but with
It
that,
really
it wasn't CIF gear we were using. We were very well spoiled as an Arctic TACP. We were given all sorts of equipment, some pretty intense Arctic gear
Yeah,
we were given for testing out stuff. And through the career field, we were always given stuff. If you want to test it out, give it to the TACPs because if it's going to
right,
work, we're going to be able to sell it. If it breaks, they're going to be able to break it. You
right.
know, so many experiences we can go back and forth on. But yeah, so that was kind of interesting getting involved with that. And then in the early years, it was 60, 70 below. I can remember my 6-year-old boy going to elementary school, 50 below. And, the cold weather policy was 40 below essential personnel. I think it was 50 below. Stay by your phone. We'll call you if we need you. But my kid's out at the school bus stop going to
Yeah,
school,
I know.
Uh,
It's bananas.
and this was weeks. I remember a Thanksgiving I hosted at my house. I lived at 225 Chena Hot Springs Road. A Thanksgiving, we were taking turns turning our vehicles on because it was like 50, 60 below. Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
November,
Oh man,
massive snow, everything.
you probably didn't have enough plug-ins to keep
No,
everybody's motors
no,
hot or
no,
oil
no.
pans or
That's why we took turns going out, starting people's cars up.